The fluorescent lights of the Internal Affairs Office buzzed overhead as Detective Marcus Holland stood at attention, his jaw clenched, fists tight at his sides. Across the polished desk sat Captain Richard Brennan, cold-eyed and unmoved, flanked by two stone-faced officers. On the floor beside Marcus, a German shepherd named Rex sat perfectly still, his dark, intelligent eyes fixed on his partner, sensing the tension radiating through the room like electricity. The air smelled of old coffee and betrayal. "You had direct orders, Holland," Brennan said, his voice sharp as broken glass. "You were told to proceed without the dog. You disobeyed. You compromised the operation. Because of your attachment to this animal, a suspect escaped." Marcus felt heat rising in his chest. That suspect was armed. Rex detected the weapon before anyone else. He saved lives. "He contaminated the scene," Brennan snapped, slamming a file onto the desk. "Your badge and weapon. Now." The room went silent except for the low rumble in Rex's chest, a protective growl meant only for his partner. Marcus looked down at the dog who had worked beside him for 6 years, who had pulled him from a burning warehouse, who had never once failed him. Then he looked back at Brennan, seeing something in those cold eyes he had never noticed before. Something that looked almost like fear. "This isn't about the operation, is it?" Marcus said quietly. Brennan's face hardened. "Security will escort you out. The dog stays. He'll be reassigned. Like hell he will. Touch that dog and you'll face charges." Marcus reached down, his hand resting on Rex's head. The shepherd leaned into his touch, loyal to the end. And in that moment, standing in a room designed to break him, Marcus Holland made a choice that would cost him everything he had built, and lead him to a truth buried so deep that powerful people had killed to keep it hidden. If this story touched your heart, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video so more people can believe in justice and loyalty. The rain came down in sheets that Thursday night, turning the city streets into rivers of reflected neon and headlights. Detective Marcus Holland sat in his unmarked sedan, engine idling, wipers working overtime against the downpour. Beside him in the passenger seat, Rex sat alert, ears forward, brown eyes scanning the warehouse across the street with the focus of a trained professional. "I don't like this," Marcus muttered, more to himself than the dog, but Rex's ear twitched in response anyway. 6 years together had created a communication that went beyond words. Marcus could read every shift in Rex's posture, every subtle change in breathing, every tension in those powerful muscles. And right now, Rex was telling him something was wrong. The radio crackled. "All units, this is command. Target vehicle spotted entering through south entrance. Move in on my mark." Marcus reached for the radio, thumb hovering over the transmit button. "Command, this is K-97. Rex is alerting to explosives. Request EOD before entry." Static. Then Captain Brennan's voice, hard and impatient. "K-97, your expertise is noted but not required. We have intelligence there are no explosives. Stand down and maintain perimeter." Rex growled, low and certain. His nose worked the air coming through the cracked window, and Marcus knew that smell. He'd seen Rex alert to explosives 43 times in their partnership, and the dog had never been wrong. Not once. "Command, I'm telling you, Rex has positive indication." "Holland." Brennan's voice could have cut steel. "The dog is wrong. We've already swept the location. Maintain your position. Do not enter with the animal." "That is a direct order." Marcus looked at Rex. The German shepherd's entire body was rigid, focused on the warehouse with an intensity that screamed danger. Around them, other units were moving into position. Through the rain-blurred windshield, Marcus could see SWAT assembling near the south entrance, preparing to breach. Good cops, men and women he'd worked with for years, about to walk into something Rex's nose was warning them about. His father's voice echoed in memory, words spoken when Marcus was a teenager, just beginning to understand what it meant to wear the badge. Sometimes the right thing and the legal thing aren't the same, son. When that happens, you look in the mirror and you decide what kind of man you are. Marcus grabbed his tactical vest from the back seat. Come on, Rex. We're going in. The shepherd was out of the car the moment the door opened, staying tight at Marcus's left side as they moved through the rain toward the warehouse. Water soaked through Marcus's jacket, plastered his hair to his skull, but he barely noticed. His radio erupted with voices. K-97, what are you doing? Holland, I gave you a direct order. All units, disregard K-97. He is not authorized for entry. Marcus switched off the radio. Rex looked up at him, rain streaming off his dark coat, and Marcus could have sworn the dog understood exactly what this was going to cost them. I know, boy, he said quietly, but we don't leave brothers behind. They moved along the east side of the warehouse, Rex leading now, following whatever scent had triggered his alert. The building was old, 3 stories of rusted corrugated metal and broken windows, the kind of place that had been manufacturing something decades ago and now served as a haven for rats, homeless people, and apparently whatever Operation Brennan's intelligence said was happening tonight. Rex stopped at a service door, looked back at Marcus, then nosed the door firmly. The alert for explosives. Clear and unmistakable. Marcus keyed his personal cell phone, calling the SWAT commander directly. Tony, it's Marcus. Do not breach south entrance. Rex is indicating explosives on east side. The whole building could be rigged. Jesus, Marcus, Brennan is going to have your head for this. Then he'll have it, but stop the breach. Silence. Then, holding position. Marcus examined the service door. It was slightly ajar, and through the gap he could see a wire. Tripwire leading into darkness. His blood went cold. If SWAT had blown the south entrance, the percussion could have triggered a sympathetic detonation. Everyone inside would have died. He photographed it with his phone, sent it to Tony. You seeing this? Holy, yeah, I'm seeing it. Calling EOD now. Brennan is screaming on command channel. Let him scream. Marcus moved carefully around the perimeter, Rex indicating 3 more locations. 2 more tripwires and what looked like a pressure plate near a loading dock. This wasn't just security. This was a death trap, designed to take out anyone who came looking. 20 minutes later, the EOD unit arrived. Sergeant Linda Hayes, a calm woman in her 40s who'd defused bombs in Iraq, took one look at the setup and whistled low. Whoever called this in saved a lot of lives tonight. That would be Rex, Marcus said, running a hand over the shepherd's wet head. Linda smiled. Good boy. She looked at Marcus, and her smile faded. Brennan's losing his mind on the command channel. You know that, right? Yeah, I know. It took 3 hours to clear the building. By the time EOD gave the all-clear, it was past midnight, the rain had stopped, and Marcus was sitting on the bumper of his sedan with Rex at his feet, both of them exhausted. They'd found the explosives, disarmed them, and eventually cleared the building for entry. But the suspects? Gone. Whoever had been there had fled during the hours-long EOD operation. Captain Brennan's sedan pulled up with the aggressive speed of barely controlled fury. The captain emerged, his expensive suit somehow still immaculate despite the late hour, and walked toward Marcus with the predatory precision of a man about to destroy someone. You disobeyed a direct order. Marcus stood, keeping his voice level. Rex detected explosives. He was right. The suspects escaped because of your interference. The suspects would have killed 12 officers if we'd breached blindly. Brennan stepped closer, his gray eyes cold as January rain. You think you're special, Holland? You think 12 years gives you the right to question my commands? I think 6 years of Rex never being wrong gives me the right to trust him. The dog, Brennan said the word like a curse, is a tool that you're too emotionally compromised to use properly. Rex growled, sensing the threat in Brennan's tone. Marcus put a hand on the dog's head, calming him, but the gesture itself seemed to enrage Brennan further. "You see," the captain said, loud enough for the other officers nearby to hear, "you can't even control your own animal. You're a liability, Holland, to this department and to your fellow officers." "That's not true." Tony, the SWAT commander, stepped forward. "Marcus saved our lives tonight." Brennan didn't even look at him. "Sergeant Hayes, would you say this operation was compromised by the presence of the K-9 unit?" Linda hesitated. Marcus could see the conflict on her face. She was EOD, not tactical. Technically, yes, the hours spent clearing the building had given suspects time to flee. But the alternative had been body bags. "Answer the question, Sergeant." "The presence of explosives required proper protocol," Linda said carefully, "which added 3 hours to our response time. 3 hours in which the suspects vanished." Brennan turned back to Marcus. "Badge and weapon. Pending internal investigation." The words hit like a physical blow. Around them, other officers went silent. Tony started to protest, but Brennan cut him off with a gesture. "This is not a debate. Holland, you are suspended effective immediately. The dog will be taken to the kennels for evaluation and reassignment." "Reassignment?" Marcus felt his pulse spike. "Rex is my partner." "Rex is department property, and he'll be evaluated to determine if his training has been compromised by your inability to follow orders." "You can't." "I can and I am. Officers, remove the dog." 2 uniformed cops approached, young guys Marcus had trained with in the academy. They looked miserable, but they reached for Rex's lead. The shepherd backed up, pressing against Marcus's legs, a warning rumble in his chest. "Easy, boy," Marcus said softly, his hand still on Rex's head. He looked at Brennan, seeing something flicker in those cold eyes, something that looked almost like satisfaction. This wasn't about the operation at all. This was about something else. Something Marcus didn't understand yet, but he would. "I'll take him to the kennels myself," Marcus said. "You'll surrender your badge and weapon, and you'll go home. The dog goes with officers I trust to follow orders." Marcus's jaw clenched. Every instinct screamed at him to refuse, to fight, to do something. But he was surrounded by cops, and however wrong this was, they were still his brothers and sisters in blue. He wouldn't put them in the position of having to physically restrain him. He unbuckled his service weapon, held it out. Brennan took it with the careful handling of someone who understood firearms, then held out his hand for the badge. Marcus unpinned it from his belt, the small piece of metal that had meant everything to him for 12 years, and placed it in Brennan's palm. "Rex," he said quietly, crouching down to look the dog in the eyes, "you're going to go with these officers. You're going to behave, and I'm going to fix this. I promise." Rex whined, a heartbroken sound that cut deeper than anything Brennan could say. One of the young officers clipped a lead to Rex's collar, and Marcus forced himself to stand, to step back, to watch as they led his partner away. The German shepherd looked back every few steps, confused, betrayed, pulling against the lead until he was finally loaded into a K-9 transport unit and driven away into the night. Marcus stood in the empty parking lot, rain starting again in a light drizzle, and felt something cold settle in his chest. Not grief, not yet. Something harder, more useful, determination. The apartment felt too quiet without the click of Rex's claws on the hardwood, without the soft sounds of the dog settling into his bed in the corner. Marcus sat at his small kitchen table, laptop open, coffee going cold in the mug beside him, and did what he'd been trained to do. He investigated. The operation tonight had been based on intelligence about a drug distribution hub. Standard raid, nothing special. But the presence of military-grade explosives? That wasn't standard. That was professional, organized, expensive. He pulled up everything he could access on his personal devices, which wasn't much now that his department credentials were suspended. But 12 years as a detective had taught him other ways to find information. Public records, Court filings, news archives, social media, the digital debris people left behind without realizing. The warehouse was owned by a shell corporation. 3 layers deep, he found the name Kovac Import Export. A little more digging revealed Nikolai Kovac, a businessman with legitimate-looking operations in international shipping. No criminal record in the United States, but Interpol had a file that was heavily redacted. What Marcus could see mentioned suspected involvement in trafficking and persons of interest in ongoing investigation. Trafficking, not drugs. Marcus leaned back, processing. If the target tonight had been a trafficking operation, why had Brennan called it a drug hub? Why had he been so adamant about keeping Rex away? And why, the question that kept circling back, had he seemed almost pleased to have an excuse to separate Marcus from his dog? His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Holland. Detective Holland, this is Lieutenant Sarah Chen, Internal Affairs. I need to speak with you. Officially. Marcus's stomach sank. Internal Affairs. The investigation was already moving. When? Tomorrow, 9 a.m. downtown office, but... She paused. I'd like to speak with you unofficially first. Tonight, if possible. Why? Because I don't think you disobeyed orders to be reckless. I think you disobeyed orders because your dog told you something was wrong. And in 6 years, how many times has Rex been wrong? Marcus felt something ease in his chest. An ally. Maybe. Never. That's what I thought. Riverside Park, north entrance. 30 minutes. Come alone. She hung up before he could respond. The park was empty at 2 in the morning, just the occasional passing car and the sound of the river moving past the walking path. Marcus spotted Lieutenant Chen sitting on a bench overlooking the water, wearing civilian clothes. Jeans, a dark jacket, her hair down instead of in its usual professional bun. She looked younger this way, but her eyes were sharp when she turned to him. Thanks for coming. Marcus sat on the opposite end of the bench, leaving space between them. Trust, but verify. You said unofficial. This conversation isn't happening. I'm not here. You're not here. She looked out at the water. I've been investigating anomalies in major crimes for 8 months. Cases that get dropped without explanation. Evidence that goes missing. Informants who stop talking. All of it connected to Captain Brennan. You think he's dirty? I think he's very dirty. But he's also very careful, very connected, and very protected. I haven't been able to prove anything concrete. She turned to look at him. Until tonight. The warehouse. The warehouse. 3 hours after the operation was called off, someone went back. Someone with department access. They removed evidence from the building before it was officially logged. What kind of evidence? I don't know yet. But the access logs show Captain Brennan's keycard at 3:47 a.m. and Detective Voss's at 3:52 a.m. They were there for 42 minutes. Marcus processed this. Brennan and his lapdog Voss removing evidence in the middle of the night from a scene that was supposed to be secured. What do you need from me? Rex alerted to explosives. But you searched the whole building perimeter, didn't you? Before EOD arrived? Standard protocol. Did he alert to anything else? Anything that wasn't explosives? Marcus thought back, replaying the circuit they'd made around the warehouse. Rex had been focused on the devices, but there'd been a moment. The north side. There was a loading dock, Rex indicated, but I thought it was related to the tripwire nearby. Why? Because the north loading dock leads to a basement level that isn't on the building plans. A basement level that wasn't searched. Because by the time EOD cleared the explosives, Brennan called off the operation entirely. Chen pulled out her phone, showed him a grainy photograph. I went back this morning before Brennan could, found this. The image showed a heavy steel door, industrial grade, with an electronic lock. Not the kind of thing you'd find in an abandoned warehouse. Not unless you were protecting something valuable. You think that's where they were holding people, Marcus said. I think that's exactly what it was. And I think Brennan knew about it. I think he set up the operation tonight not to raid it, but to make it look like he tried. The explosives were there to discourage actual investigation. When you and Rex showed up and did actual police work, you became a problem. Marcus felt anger burning cold in his veins. He used the suspension to discredit me. He used the suspension to remove the one cop who couldn't be bought and wouldn't let something go once his dog told him there was more to find. Chen stood. The official IA investigation will find that you violated protocol but saved lives. You'll probably face a temporary suspension and mandatory retraining. Brennan's already positioning it as a learning opportunity about chain of command. And unofficially, I need someone who's willing to burn their career to the ground to expose this, because that's what it's going to take. Brennan has friends all the way to the commissioner's office. If we go after him and miss, we're both done. Marcus stood as well, looking out at the dark water. His father had died in the line of duty, taking a bullet meant for his partner. Marcus had joined the force to honor that sacrifice, to be the kind of cop his dad had been. Honest. Brave. Unwilling to look away from evil just because it wore a badge. What do you need me to do? Chen smiled, grim and determined. Get your dog back, and find out what he was really alerting to. The Metropolitan Police K9 kennels were in the basement of the downtown precinct, a fact Marcus had always hated. Dogs needed sunlight, space, fresh air. Instead, they got concrete and fluorescent lights and the echo of their own barking off cinder block walls. Marcus showed up at 7 a.m. before most of the department was awake and found Officer Davis doing kennel duty. Davis was young, earnest, and had always liked Rex. "Detective Holland," he said, surprised. "I heard you were suspended." "I am. I just want to see Rex. 5 minutes." Davis looked uncomfortable. "Captain Brennan left orders. No one's supposed to have contact with Rex until he's been evaluated." "Davis, I'm not asking to take him. I'm asking to see my partner. 5 minutes." "Please." The young officer wavered, then sighed. 5 minutes, and I didn't see you." "Didn't see who?" Davis smiled slightly and unlocked the kennel area. The smell hit Marcus immediately. Dogs, disinfectant, urine, the particular mustiness of animals kept underground. The kennels ran along both walls, chain-link cages with concrete floors and thin rubber mats for bedding. Most held dogs, Marcus knew, and they barked in greeting, tails wagging. But from the far end, one kennel was silent. Rex sat at the back of his cage, ears forward, watching Marcus approach with those intelligent brown eyes. He didn't bark, didn't wag, just watched, and in that gaze, Marcus saw something that broke his heart. Confusion, betrayal. The question every loyal dog asks when their human leaves them. "What did I do wrong?" "Nothing," Marcus said, kneeling in front of the cage. "You did nothing wrong, Rex. This is on me." Rex stood slowly, approached the chain link, and pressed his nose against it. Marcus reached through, ran his hand over the shepherd's muzzle, felt the warm breath on his palm. "I'm going to fix this," he whispered. "I promise you, boy, I'm going to fix this and we're going to finish what you started. But I need you to trust me a little longer. Can you do that?" Rex whined, soft and heartbroken, but he didn't pull away from Marcus's touch. Behind him, Davis cleared his throat. "Detective, you should know. They're bringing in an evaluator this afternoon. Dr. Simmons from the training academy. Word is if Rex shows any aggression or instability, they're going to recommend retirement." Marcus's blood went cold. Retirement for a 6-year-old working dog didn't mean a nice house with a yard. It meant euthanasia. Dogs trained in apprehension couldn't be adopted out to civilian families. If Rex was deemed unfit for service, they'd put him down. "On what grounds? He's a decorated K9 with a perfect record." Davis looked miserable. "Captain Brennan's report says Rex showed aggression toward officers last night. Says he's become too attached to you and won't accept commands from handlers." "That's insane. Rex is one of the most stable dogs in the unit." I know, but it's Brennan's word. Davis hesitated. There's something else. This morning during feeding, Rex wouldn't eat. Just sat there, staring at the door, like he was waiting for you. Marcus looked at his partner, saw the stress in the tight set of the dog's shoulders, the flatness of his ears. Rex was a working dog, trained and bred for a job he loved. Being caged, separated from his handler, with no understanding of why, it was torture. I need more time with him. I can give you 10 minutes. That's it. When Davis left, Marcus opened the kennel door and stepped inside. Rex immediately pressed against his legs, the shepherd's entire body trembling with the effort of staying controlled when what he wanted was to bark, to jump, to celebrate his human's return. Easy, boy, Marcus said, running his hands over Rex's back, checking for injuries or signs of stress. The dog was physically fine, but emotionally, Marcus could feel the anxiety thrumming through him. Listen to me. When Dr. Simmons comes, you do everything he says. You show him you're the professional I know you are. You sit, you heal, you show no aggression. Do you understand? Rex looked up at him, and Marcus knew the dog didn't understand the words but understood the tone. Trust me. Behave. Wait. That warehouse, Marcus continued, keeping his voice low. The north loading dock. You were alerting to something there, weren't you? Not just the explosives. At the word alert, Rex's ears perked, training kicking in. If I can get you out of here, if I can get us back in the field, we're going to find out what. We're going to finish the job. But first, I need you to pass this evaluation. I need you to be the best damn K9 in the department. Can you do that for me? Rex's tail wagged once, twice. That's my boy. Marcus spent the remaining 8 minutes just sitting on the concrete floor, with Rex pressed against his side, both of them stealing comfort from contact. When Davis knocked to signal time was up, Marcus stood, gave Rex a final command in the hand signals they'd developed over years of working together. Wait! Stay strong! I'm coming back! Rex sat at attention, watching Marcus leave, and didn't make a sound. The official internal affairs interview took place in a gray office that smelled like old files and disappointment. Lieutenant Chen was professionally distant, asking questions from a script, her face revealing nothing. But when she asked about Rex's alert record, Marcus understood what she was really asking. In 6 years of partnership, Rex has made 412 positive alerts, Marcus stated for the record. Explosives, narcotics, weapons, human remains, he has never had a false positive, not one. And last night? Last night he alerted to explosives at 4 different locations around the warehouse perimeter. EOD confirmed all 4. If SWAT had breached as planned, we'd have had casualties. Captain Brennan contends that the delay caused by EOD protocols allowed suspects to escape. Captain Brennan's intelligence said there were no explosives. He was wrong. Rex was right. Chen made a note. Why do you think you were ordered to keep Rex out of the operation? You'd have to ask Captain Brennan. I'm asking you. Marcus met her eyes, saw the slight nod. This was the question that mattered. I think someone didn't want a thorough search of that warehouse. I think explosives weren't the only thing Rex would have found. Chen closed her folder. This interview is concluded. You'll receive official notification of any disciplinary action within 72 hours. She stood, then paused at the door. Detective Holland, I'd advise you to stay away from active investigations during your suspension. It would be unfortunate if you were found to be interfering with department operations. The emphasis on the last sentence was slight, but clear. Stay away from official investigations. But unofficial? That was a different story. Marcus went back to his apartment, back to the too quiet space where Rex's empty bed sat in the corner like an accusation. He made coffee, opened his laptop, and started building a case the way he'd been taught in the academy. Evidence, timeline, connections. Kovach Import, Export had been in business for 7 years. Legitimate operations, paying taxes, no obvious red flags. But the Interpol file mentioned trafficking, and the warehouse, owned through 3 shell companies, had a basement level that wasn't on any building plans. Marcus pulled up property records. The warehouse had been purchased 4 years ago. Renovated 6 months later, permits filed for structural reinforcement and HVAC updates, but no permits for basement construction, which meant either the basement already existed or it had been built off the books. He cross-referenced the permit dates with Brennan's career trajectory. 4 years ago, Brennan had been a lieutenant in Vice. 3 years ago, he'd been promoted to captain and moved to major crimes. 6 months after that promotion, the warehouse renovation began. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe a newly promoted captain with access to intelligence about trafficking investigations had found a way to make himself useful to people who'd pay well for police protection. Marcus's phone rang. Tony, the SWAT commander. "Hey, man, just wanted to check in. That suspension is bullshit." "Thanks, Tony. Listen, I don't know what you're planning, but be careful. Brennan's got friends. I've already had 2 people ask me questions about your history of insubordination. They're building a case to make sure this sticks." Noted. "I mean it, Marcus. I know you. I know that look you get when something doesn't sit right. This is bigger than one bad captain. Don't go after this alone." "I won't," Marcus lied. After Tony hung up, Marcus sat staring at his laptop screen, at the web of connections he was building. Tony was right. This was bigger than Brennan, and going after it could cost Marcus everything. His eyes drifted to the photo on his desk. His father, in dress blues, at Marcus's police academy graduation. Pride shining in his eyes. 3 years later, he'd been dead, killed in a shootout while protecting his partner. Sometimes the right thing and the legal thing aren't the same, son. Marcus picked up his phone and texted Lieutenant Chen a single word. "When?" Her response came immediately. "Tomorrow night. I'll send details." He closed the laptop and stood, pacing the small apartment with the restless energy of a man about to cross a line he couldn't uncross. Rex was locked in a kennel, facing an evaluation that could end his life. Brennan was covering up trafficking operations. Victims, people, were being bought and sold while cops on his payroll looked the other way. The legal thing would be to wait for the IA investigation, to let the system work, to trust that justice would prevail. But Marcus had been a cop long enough to know that sometimes the system was broken, sometimes the system was the problem. He looked out his window at the city below, lights spreading out like a living thing, and made his choice. Tomorrow night, he and Lieutenant Chen would go back to that warehouse. They'd find that basement level. They'd document what Brennan had tried so hard to hide, and then they'd burn his whole operation to the ground. The next morning arrived with gray skies that matched Marcus's mood. He hadn't slept, had spent the hours before dawn running through scenarios, each one ending with variables he couldn't control. But there was one thing he could influence. One factor that mattered more than anything else in this equation. Rex had to pass that evaluation. Marcus drove to the precinct at noon, parking across the street where he had a clear view of the entrance. He felt like a criminal, surveilling his own workplace, but his badge was suspended, and showing up inside would give Brennan ammunition. So he waited, coffee going cold in the cup holder, watching officers come and go from the building that had been his second home for 12 years. At 1:15 p.m., a silver SUV pulled into the visitor parking. Dr. Richard Simmons emerged, a man in his 60s with steel-gray hair and the ramrod posture of someone who'd spent decades training both dogs and handlers. Marcus had been through Simmons's courses at the academy. The man was fair, knowledgeable, and impossible to fool, which meant Rex would be evaluated properly. But it also meant if Brennan had poisoned the well, if he'd framed the evaluation with enough negative context, even Rex's perfect behavior might not be enough. Marcus forced himself to wait. 45 minutes. An hour. He was reaching for his phone to call Davis when it buzzed in his hand. Unknown number again. But when he answered, he heard Davis's voice, low and rushed. "Detective, the evaluation just finished." "You need to know." Rex performed perfectly. Perfect obedience, perfect temperament. Responded to every handler Dr. Simmons brought in. But Marcus's grip tightened on the phone. But what? Brennan was there. He kept pushing Simmons, saying Rex showed selective obedience, that he only responds properly because he's been overtrained to compensate for aggression. Simmons shut it down, said that's not how training works, that Rex is one of the best canines he's evaluated. But then Brennan pulled out a report. What kind of report? Said it was from the operation 2 nights ago. Said Rex lunged at officers, showed teeth, refused commands from everyone except you. He's claiming Rex is a liability, that he's been improperly socialized and represents a danger to handlers. That's a complete fabrication. Rex never lunged at anyone. I know, I was there. But it's Brennan's official report versus... Davis trailed off, the implication clear. Versus a suspended detective with no credibility. What did Simmons say? He said he can only evaluate what he observes, and what he observed was a stable, well-trained working dog. He's filing his report as fit for duty, with recommendation for continued service. But Brennan's pushing for a secondary evaluation, calling in someone from State Police K-9 unit. Marcus closed his eyes, processing. Brennan was scrambling, trying to find someone who'd give him the answer he wanted. When? 3 days. And Detective, they're moving Rex to the city animal control facility tomorrow, saying the precinct kennels are needed for active duty dogs. Animal control. Where dogs who failed evaluations went before being euthanized. Where evidence could disappear, where records could be altered, where a highly trained police dog could suffer an accident and no one would question it too hard. Thanks for the heads up, Davis. Be careful, sir. Whatever you're planning, just be careful. Marcus sat in his car, rage and fear warring in his chest. Brennan was moving faster than expected, tying up loose ends, eliminating problems. And Rex, loyal and brave and innocent, was being framed as dangerous to justify removing him permanently. His phone buzzed again, this time a text from Lieutenant Chen. Tonight, midnight, Riverside Park, same location. Come prepared for tactical entry. Dress dark, no badge, no gun. Marcus texted back, understood. Then he started the car and drove to a place he hadn't visited in 5 years. The storage unit was in a facility on the outskirts of the city, one of those anonymous rows of orange doors where people kept the pieces of their lives they couldn't fit in apartments. Marcus's unit held boxes from his father's house, items he couldn't bring himself to throw away but couldn't bear to display. Photographs, medals, uniforms, and equipment. His father had been old school, the kind of cop who believed in being prepared for anything. In the back of the unit, wrapped in canvas and sealed in waterproof containers, Marcus found what he needed. Tactical vest, civilian version, no police markings, night vision monocular, lockpick set, compact first aid kit, a backup weapon his father had kept off the books, a Glock 19 with no serial number, illegal to possess but utterly untraceable. Marcus held the weapon, feeling its weight, knowing that crossing this line meant there was no going back. If he was caught with an unregistered firearm while under suspension, his career was over. If he was caught breaking into a crime scene, he'd face charges. But if he did nothing, Rex would die, and Brennan would keep protecting traffickers. He loaded the weapon, chambered a round, and tucked it into a concealed holster at the small of his back. The hours until midnight crawled past. Marcus went back to his apartment, tried to eat and couldn't, tried to rest and instead lay on his bed staring at the ceiling, running through tactics. He and Chen would be entering an unsecured location with unknown hazards, no backup, and no legal authority. If something went wrong, no one was coming to save them. At 11:30 p.m., he dressed in black cargo pants, dark hiking boots, a black long-sleeve shirt, and a dark jacket. The tactical vest went on underneath, plates front and back. The gun settled at his spine, familiar and dangerous. He looked at himself in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. Not a cop anymore. Something else. Something necessary. He drove to Riverside Park, taking a circuitous route, watching for tails. Paranoid? Maybe. But Brennan hadn't gotten this far by being careless, and if he suspected Marcus was digging, he'd be watching. Lieutenant Chen was already there, sitting on the same bench, also dressed in dark clothing. She had a backpack at her feet and looked up as Marcus approached, her expression grim but determined. "You're sure about this?" she asked. "Are you?" "I asked first." Marcus sat beside her. "Rex is being transferred to animal control tomorrow. Brennan's pushing for a second evaluation, shopping for someone who will declare him dangerous. If I don't find evidence to stop this now, my partner dies and Brennan keeps operating." Chen nodded slowly. "I accessed the building permits again, went deeper. That basement level? It's not just off the books. The architectural firm that filed the renovation permits doesn't exist anymore. Dissolved 6 months after the work was completed. The contractor listed as doing the work? Also dissolved. Every company involved in that renovation has been liquidated, every paper trail cut. Someone's cleaning up. Someone with resources and long-term planning." She pulled a tablet from her backpack, showed him thermal imaging. "I drove past the warehouse this afternoon with a FLIR camera. The building reads cold on ground level, but the basement signature shows active HVAC. Climate control, power consumption. Someone's maintaining that space." Marcus studied the thermal image, seeing the telltale heat signature of an underground structure. For what? If it was a holding facility for trafficking, they'd have cleared it out after our operation. Unless they think they scared us off. Unless Brennan assured them that the cop who found it has been discredited and his dog is being put down. Chen met his eyes. "We might still have a window. A day, maybe 2, before they relocate operations. Then we go tonight." Chen pulled equipment from her backpack. 2 throat mic communication sets, frequency hopping to avoid interception. A fiber optic camera for checking around corners. Lock bypass tools that were technically legal for locksmiths, but definitely not for suspended cops. And a small drone, the kind that could fit in a palm. If we find evidence of trafficking, victims, documents, anything concrete, I have a contact at FBI who'll move immediately. Agent Rebecca Torres, Human Trafficking Task Force. She's been trying to build a case against Kovach for 2 years, but can't get cooperation from Metro PD. Because Brennan's blocking her. Exactly. But if we hand her evidence, she can get federal warrants, move without local PD involvement. Brennan won't see it coming until it's too late. Marcus helped her distribute the equipment. What about Brennan himself? Even if we prove the trafficking operation, connecting him directly is another level. Chen's smile was cold. I've been tracking his finances for 6 months. He's good, runs everything through his wife's consulting business, but I found the pattern. Large deposits, always just under reporting thresholds, always within 48 hours of major shipments through Kovach's import business. If we can prove what's being shipped, I can connect the money trail. How are you accessing his financial records? You really want to know? Marcus thought about it. No. Smart. She stood, shouldered her backpack. My car is 2 blocks north. We go in one vehicle, stay together, watch each other's backs. If this goes sideways, we run and regroup. No heroics. Agreed? Agreed. They walked through the dark park toward her vehicle, a nondescript sedan, government fleet but unmarked. The city was quiet at this hour, just the occasional car, the distant wail of sirens, the ambient sound of 8 million people trying to sleep. Chen drove, taking them through neighborhoods that grew progressively more industrial, more abandoned. The warehouse district at night was a different world, pools of darkness between scattered streetlights, empty buildings with broken windows staring like dead eyes. She parked 3 blocks from the target location, killing the lights and engine. For a moment, they sat in silence, both processing what they were about to do. "My father was a cop in Shanghai," Chen said quietly. "Good cop, honest, believed in the system. He investigated a trafficking ring connected to party officials. They gave him chances to back off, chances to look the other way. He didn't take them. They killed him and made it look like suicide. I was 12. Marcus looked at her, understanding suddenly why she'd spent 8 months building a case against Brennan, why she was willing to risk everything. "I became a cop to finish what he started," she continued. "To prove that sometimes the system works, that good people can win. But if the system's broken, if the people inside it are the problem," she met his eyes, "then we fix it. Whatever it takes." "Whatever it takes," Marcus echoed. They exited the vehicle, closed the doors softly, and moved into the shadows. The warehouse looked different at night, more menacing, windows dark and empty, the structure itself seeming to crouch against the sky like something predatory. Marcus and Chen approached from the east, using the same route Marcus had taken with Rex 2 nights before. The service door, where Rex had first alerted to explosives, was now sealed with police tape, but the tape had been cut recently, the edges still clean. Someone had been here. Chen noticed it too, touched Marcus's arm, pointed. He nodded, hand moving instinctively to the weapon at his back. They moved along the perimeter, heading for the north loading dock. The metal roll-up door was locked, but the personnel entrance beside it showed signs of use. Fresh scuff marks on the concrete, oil stains that hadn't been there before, and when Marcus tested the handle, it opened. Not locked, not even secured, like someone expected traffic. Chen deployed the drone, a whisper-quiet quadcopter that rose into the air and transmitted video to her tablet. The thermal camera showed the building's interior, empty on ground level, but in the basement, heat signatures. Multiple sources, too regular to be mechanical, too warm to be anything but living bodies. "Count them," Marcus whispered into his throat mic. Chen zoomed the thermal view. 9 signatures. Basement level, clustered in what looks like cells or rooms. 9 people. 9 victims, if this was what they thought. 9 lives in the balance. They entered the building, every sense heightened, adrenaline making colors sharper, sounds louder. The ground floor was exactly as Marcus remembered from the aborted raid, empty, gutted, decades of industrial decay. But now he was looking for what Rex had found, what the shepherd's nose had detected that no amount of human investigation had revealed. The north loading dock, the hidden basement entrance. It took 15 minutes of searching before Chen found it. A section of floor that looked like concrete but was actually composite material, lighter, movable. She traced the edge with her fingers, found the release mechanism hidden in what looked like a structural support beam, and pressed. The floor section lifted on hydraulic pistons, silent and smooth, revealing stairs leading down into LED-lit whiteness. Marcus and Chen exchanged glances. This wasn't abandoned. This was active, maintained, operational. And if there were 9 heat signatures down there, there might also be guards. Marcus drew his weapon, keeping it low and ready. Chen did the same, pulling a compact 9mm from her jacket. They descended the stairs slowly, each step careful, controlled, weapons tracking their sight lines. The stairs opened into a corridor. White walls, white floor, fluorescent lights humming overhead. The air was climate-controlled, cool and dry, and carried smells that made Marcus's stomach turn. Disinfectant, unwashed bodies, fear. Doors lined both sides of the corridor. Heavy steel with observation slots, industrial locks. Chen approached the first door, peered through the slot, then stepped back, her face pale. Marcus looked. The room beyond was small, maybe 8 by 10 feet. A cot with a thin mattress, a bucket in the corner. And on the cot, a girl, maybe 16 years old, wearing a stained dress, staring at the wall with the empty eyes of someone who'd given up hoping for rescue. Jesus Christ, Marcus breathed. They moved to the next door. Another girl, younger, couldn't be more than 14. The next room held a woman in her 20s, bruises on her arms. The next, another teenager. 9 rooms, 9 prisoners, 9 human beings caged like animals. Chen was filming everything with her phone, documenting, building evidence. Marcus wanted to open the doors immediately to free them, but they needed to be smart. If they triggered an alarm, if guards came, they'd lose everything. "End of corridor," Chen whispered, pointing to a door marked office. They approached, Marcus taking point. The door was unlocked, and inside they found what they needed: a desk with a computer, file cabinets, and on the wall, a whiteboard with names, dates, and prices. The victims weren't people here. They were inventory. Chen went straight for the computer, plugged in a USB device that began copying files. Marcus photographed the whiteboard, the files, everything. Each image was a nail in Brennan's coffin, each document a piece of evidence that would burn this operation to the ground. "How long?" Marcus asked. 2 minutes for the data copy." Marcus kept watch on the corridor, every nerve screaming that this was too easy, that they'd walked into a facility holding 9 people and encountered no security, no guards, no resistance. It didn't make sense unless it was a trap. The thought crystallized just as he heard it. A sound from above. Footsteps, multiple sets, moving fast. "We've got company," Marcus said sharply. Chen yanked the USB drive, pocketed it. "Backstairs?" "Didn't see any." The footsteps were on the stairs now, descending. Marcus counted 4, maybe 5 people, moving with tactical precision, not police. Brennan wouldn't risk official involvement. These were Kovach's people, private security, the kind who'd shoot first and disappear bodies later. "Rooms," Marcus said, making a decision. "We free them, create chaos, use it as cover. We'll never get all 9 out in time. Then we get out who we can." They moved fast, Marcus using the lock bypass tools on the first door while Chen covered the corridor. The lock clicked, the door swung open, and the girl on the cot looked up, terror and confusion warring on her face. "Police," Marcus said in English, then tried Spanish. "Policia, we're getting you out." The girl didn't move, paralyzed by fear or disbelief. The footsteps reached the bottom of the stairs. Voices, speaking in a language Marcus didn't recognize, but the tone was clear. They knew someone was down here. Chen fired twice, suppressive shots aimed high, buying seconds. The voices erupted in shouts, return fire punching into the corridor walls. Marcus pulled the girl from the room, pushed her toward Chen. "Get her out!" he shouted. "Not without you! I'll get the others!" More gunfire. Marcus kicked open the second door, found the young girl cowering in the corner. He scooped her up, her tiny frame weighing nothing, and carried her into the corridor. Chen was retreating toward the stairs, the first girl stumbling after her, both of them under fire. This was falling apart. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and trapped in an underground corridor with 9 victims who were too traumatized to save themselves. Marcus's training kicked in. Suppress, move, communicate. He fired 3 rounds at the advancing shooters, drove them into cover, then grabbed the woman from the third room. "Chen, get them out. Call Torres. Get FBI here now." "I'm not leaving you!" A bullet creased Marcus's shoulder, burning line of pain that focused everything to crystal clarity. He returned fire, dropped 1 shooter, saw 2 more advancing. The math was simple and brutal. They couldn't save everyone, but they could save some, and they could make sure the evidence got out. "Go!" Marcus roared. Chen hesitated 1 more second, then made the hardest choice of her career. She grabbed the 2 girls and ran for the stairs, phone already at her ear, calling in the cavalry. Marcus stood his ground in the corridor, weapon up, protecting the retreat. He fired, moved, used the doorways as cover. The shooters were professional, coordinated, but they were also constrained by the narrow corridor. 1 target, 1 direction, Simple geometry. He dropped a second shooter, heard the third yelling into a radio, calling for backup probably, which meant Marcus's time was measured in minutes. He kicked open another door, found a woman in her 30s, Eastern European features, terrified eyes. "Can you run?" he asked. She nodded. "Then run. Follow the stairs up. FBI is coming. Run." She ran. Marcus turned back to the remaining doors. 5 victims still trapped. 5 lives he couldn't save alone. The tactical reality was brutal. He needed to retreat, needed to get out while he still could, trust that the FBI would come fast enough. But one of those doors held a girl who'd been here for God knew how long. One of those doors held someone's daughter, sister, friend. One of those doors held a person whose hope had been dying by hours, by days, until maybe tonight, finally, someone came for them. Marcus made his choice. He kicked open the 4th door. The firefight lasted 90 seconds that felt like 90 hours. Marcus moved through the corridor like his instructors had trained him, like his father had taught him, like 6 years with Rex had reinforced. Fast, aggressive, overwhelming violence of action. He breached doors, pulled victims, pushed them toward the stairs. Some ran, some froze. One woman, maybe 25, grabbed his arm and whispered in broken English, "There are children, next level down." Marcus's blood went ice cold. "How many?" "3, maybe 4, please." Another level. More victims. And somewhere above, Chen was calling in FBI, which meant this location would be swarmed soon, which also meant Kovach and Brennan would know their operation was blown, which meant if there were children another level down, this might be the only chance to reach them before someone gave orders to sanitize the evidence. Marcus heard sirens in the distance, coming fast. Chen had come through. He also heard footsteps behind him. The remaining shooters regrouping, preparing to finish this. "Go," he told the woman. "Run. Follow the others. FBI is here." She ran. Marcus found the stairs to the 2nd basement level, a narrow metal staircase that descended into darkness. He descended, weapon up, tactical light cutting through shadows, and emerged into a nightmare. This level was different. Not cells. A living area almost, if you could call it that. Mattresses on the floor, a small bathroom. And in the corner, 3 children. 2 girls and a boy. None of them older than 10. All of them staring at him with eyes that had seen too much. "I'm police," Marcus said softly, holstering his weapon so he wouldn't scare them further. "I'm here to help. We're leaving. Now." The older girl, maybe 9, shook her head. "They'll kill us." "Not if you come with me." "They killed Maria. She tried to run." Marcus knelt, making himself smaller, less threatening. "I know you're scared. But right now upstairs, there are FBI agents. Real police. Good people who are going to stop the bad people. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" The sirens were louder now. Close. The cavalry was arriving. The boy stood first, small and brave, and took Marcus's hand. The girls followed. Marcus led them to the stairs. The 3 children clustered around him, and that's when he heard the voice from above. "Holland, I know you're down there." Brennan. Of course it was Brennan. The captain would have been monitoring police bands, would have heard the FBI call out, would have come to manage the crisis personally. And here, in the dark beneath a warehouse, he'd found the cop who'd refused to let it go. Marcus positioned himself between the children and the stairs, weapon drawn again, mind racing through options. He could hear FBI above, could hear Chen's voice directing agents. But between him and rescue was Brennan, and whatever men he'd brought with him. "Send the children up," Marcus called. "They're not part of this. Everything down here is part of this." Brennan's voice was calm, measured. "And it's all about to burn. Unfortunate accident. Faulty wiring. By the time fire crews put it out, there won't be evidence of anything except an abandoned building and some transients who didn't get out in time." Marcus smelled it then. Gasoline. Brennan was torching the whole facility, victims and all, destroying evidence and loose ends in one move. The children clung to Marcus, the older girl crying silently. Above, the FBI wouldn't know about this second level, wouldn't know to search deeper. Chen would assume Marcus got out, would focus on securing the victims she'd rescued. They were alone. Marcus pulled out his phone, texted Chen 3 words. Second basement. Children. Then he looked at the kids, at their terrified faces, and felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. Brennan wanted to burn them all? Then Brennan was going to have to go through Marcus first. Listen to me, he whispered to the children. Stay behind me. When I say run, you run up those stairs as fast as you can. Don't stop. Don't look back. Just run to the people shouting FBI. Understand? They nodded. Marcus checked his weapon. 11 rounds left. He'd need to make them count. He moved to the base of the stairs, looked up into the darkness, and saw Brennan's silhouette backlit by flames. The captain had a gun in one hand, a canister of accelerant in the other, and the expression of a man who'd already decided how this ended. You should have stayed away, Holland, Brennan said. You and that dog. All you had to do was follow orders. Where's Rex? Marcus demanded. The animal control facility lost him, I'm afraid. Escaped during transport. Tragic. They're still looking, but you know how it is. Dangerous dog. Might have to be shot on sight. Rage flooded Marcus's vision red. If you hurt him, you'll what? You're a suspended cop in an illegal investigation, carrying an unregistered weapon, breaking into private property. Even if you get out of here, you're done. Brennan poured more accelerant on the stairs. But you're not getting out. He lit a match, and that's when Marcus heard it. A sound that cut through the fear and the flames and the certainty of death. A sound that meant hope. Barking. Rex's barking. The specific pattern that meant, I found you, I'm coming, hold on. Brennan heard it too, turned, surprised, and in that moment of distraction, Marcus moved. He fired twice, driving Brennan back from the stairs, then grabbed the children. Run! They ran, small feet pounding up metal stairs through spreading flames. Marcus followed, shielding them with his body, feeling heat on his back, smoke filling his lungs. Brennan fired, bullets sparking off metal, but Marcus kept moving, kept pushing, kept protecting the 3 small lives in front of him. They burst into the first basement level, into chaos. FBI agents everywhere, victims being escorted out, Chen directing traffic. And in the middle of it all, a German shepherd with a black and tan coat and intelligent brown eyes, pulling against a makeshift lead, barking with desperate urgency. Rex had found him. Marcus didn't know how, didn't question it. He pushed the children toward Chen, shouted, Get them out! Then turned back to the stairs as Brennan emerged from the smoke, weapon raised, face twisted with rage. K9, attack! Marcus commanded, and released Rex from Chen's grip. The German shepherd launched forward, 80 pounds of trained aggression and pent-up loyalty. Brennan fired, missed, and then Rex was on him, jaws clamping on the gun arm, dragging the captain down. The weapon clattered away, and Brennan screamed, trying to fight off the dog he'd tried so hard to kill. FBI agents swarmed in, weapons drawn, shouting commands. Marcus called Rex off, and the shepherd released immediately, returning to Marcus's side, tail wagging despite the smoke and chaos, as if to say, I found you. We're together. Everything's okay now. Marcus dropped to his knees, wrapped his arms around Rex, and let himself shake. They'd done it. They'd found the victims, gathered the evidence, stopped Brennan. But as Chen helped him to his feet, as FBI agents led Brennan away in handcuffs, as fire crews arrived to extinguish the blaze, Marcus saw something that made his blood run cold. The office, where Chen had copied the files. Flames were consuming it, spreading fast, destroying the computer, the whiteboard, the physical evidence they needed to prove the full scope of the conspiracy. Chen saw it too, pulled the USB drive from her pocket. "It's okay. I got the files. We have—" She stopped, face going pale. The USB drive in her hand was melted, the plastic warped from heat, the circuitry destroyed. In the chaos of the firefight and evacuation, the drive had been damaged beyond recovery. They had the victims. They had Brennan in custody. But the evidence connecting him to Kovacs, the financial records, the trafficking network, gone. The FBI field office was controlled chaos at 4 in the morning. Victims wrapped in blankets, sitting in interview rooms with trauma counselors. Agents running between desks, phones ringing, printers spitting out reports. And in the center of it all, Marcus sat with Rex at his feet, an ice pack on his burned shoulder, giving his statement for the third time to Agent Rebecca Torres. Torres was in her 40s, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense, with the bearing of someone who'd seen the worst humanity had to offer and still showed up for work. She'd been listening to Marcus's account with the focused intensity of a prosecutor building a case, recording everything, taking notes, asking clarifying questions. "So you entered the facility without a warrant, without authority, while under suspension, carrying an unregistered weapon," Torres summarized. "And Lieutenant Chen provided you with equipment and intelligence gathered through what I'm going to generously call questionable channels." "Yes, ma'am," Marcus said. "And you're both incredibly lucky that the 12 victims you rescued, including 3 children, make you look like heroes instead of reckless vigilantes." Marcus met her eyes. "Respectfully, Agent Torres, we didn't do it to look like heroes. We did it because Captain Brennan was going to kill my dog and bury evidence of a trafficking operation." Torres leaned back, studied him. "I've been investigating Nikolai Kovacs for 2 years. Every time I get close, evidence disappears, witnesses recant, warrants get delayed. I knew someone in Metro PD was protecting him, but I couldn't prove who." She tapped her pen on the folder. "Captain Richard Brennan was arrested at the scene of a trafficking facility, carrying an illegal firearm in the act of attempted arson and attempted murder. That's enough to hold him, but it's not enough to prove conspiracy or connect him to Kovacs' larger operation. The files Chen copied are destroyed. The physical evidence burned. The computer melted. What we have is 12 traumatized victims, most of whom don't speak English, all of whom are terrified to testify. We have Brennan's presence at the scene, which his lawyers will argue was him responding to reports of a break-in, and we have your testimony, which his lawyers will shred because you are acting illegally." Marcus felt exhaustion and frustration warring in his chest. "So he walks." "I didn't say that." Torres pulled out a photograph, slid it across the desk. "This girl. You pulled her from the 3rd room. Her name is Elena Petrova, 16 years old, trafficked from Moldova 8 months ago. She speaks English, and she's willing to talk." Marcus looked at the photo, recognized the girl he'd pushed toward Chen during the firefight. "What did she say?" "She said Captain Brennan visited the facility 4 times that she knows of. She said he brought paperwork, talked with guards, and once brought a man in an expensive suit who inspected the inventory like he was shopping. She can identify Brennan, and she can identify Nikolai Kovacs." Hope flickered. "That's conspiracy. That's trafficking. That's the word of a traumatized 16-year-old against a decorated police captain with 30 years of service and connections to the mayor's office." Torres held up a hand before Marcus could protest. "I believe her. I'm going to prosecute based on her testimony. But I need more. I need financial records, communications, something that proves the connection between Brennan and Kovacs beyond Elena's eyewitness account." Lieutenant Chen appeared in the doorway looking exhausted, her jacket scorched from the fire. "Agent Torres, the victims are settled. Medical examinations are scheduled for tomorrow. Today, I mean. And I have something you need to see." She set a laptop on the desk, turned it to face Torres and Marcus. The screen showed security camera footage, grainy and time-stamped, from what looked like the warehouse exterior. "I went back to the scene after fire crews cleared it," Chen explained. "Found the security system in a junction box 50 feet from the building. It's on a separate circuit, battery backup, uploads to cloud storage. Brennan didn't know about it." Torres leaned forward, eyes sharp. "What am I looking at?" Chen hit play. The footage showed the warehouse loading dock, night vision mode, 3 weeks earlier according to the timestamp. A truck backed up to the dock, doors opened, and men began unloading cargo. But the cargo was people. Women and children, hands bound, being herded into the building by armed guards. And standing there, watching, directing traffic like he owned the place, Captain Richard Brennan, in civilian clothes, checking a clipboard. The second clip showed Brennan again, this time talking with a man in an expensive suit. The man Torres identified immediately as Nikolai Kovac. They stood close, Brennan gesturing at the building, Kovac nodding, and then, clear as day, Kovac handed Brennan an envelope. Brennan opened it, thumbed through what was obviously cash, and pocketed it. The third clip was the most damning. Brennan and Detective Voss loading something from the warehouse into an unmarked police vehicle. The timestamp was 3:52 a.m., the night of the raid. The night Chen's access log showed them at the scene. They were removing evidence. Torres watched all 3 clips twice, then looked at Chen with something like respect. "This is admissible. This is prosecutable. This is a goddamn gift." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "The system uploads to a third-party security service. Brennan's people never thought to check for external backups. I have 47 hours of footage, going back 6 months. Brennan, Voss, Kovac, all of them on camera over and over." Marcus felt the weight on his chest ease slightly. "So we have him." "We have him," Torres confirmed. "Brennan, Voss, and everyone connected to this operation. I'm getting warrants for Kovac's offices, his warehouses, his financial records. By noon, we'll have federal agents executing coordinated raids across the city." She looked at Marcus. "But I need you to stay out of it. You're a witness now, not an investigator. Brennan's lawyers are going to argue entrapment, illegal search, contaminated evidence. The cleaner we keep this, the better." "Understood." "And the dog?" Torres looked down at Rex, who was resting his head on Marcus's knee. "He was reported escaped from transport?" "That's what Brennan claimed," Chen said. "But I checked. Animal Control never received transfer orders. Rex was supposed to be moved this morning, not last night. Someone let him out of the precinct kennels early." "Who?" Chen smiled. "Officer Davis logged a kennel malfunction at 11:47 p.m. Door mechanism failure. By the time he discovered it, Rex was already gone." Marcus made a mental note to thank Davis. Later, when this was over, he'd buy the kid a beer and shake his hand. But right now, there was a more pressing question. "How did Rex find me?" Marcus asked. "The warehouse is 6 miles from the precinct. He would have had to track through the city at night to a location he'd only been to once." Torres looked at Chen. Chen looked at Marcus. And Rex, still resting his head on Marcus's knee, thumped his tail once, as if to say, "You're my partner. I'll always find you." "Working dogs bond with their handlers," Torres said. "It's not just training. It's loyalty that goes beyond reason. Rex knew you were in trouble, and he came. That's all that matters." But Marcus knew it was more than that. He'd worked with Rex for 6 years, had seen the dog track scents across miles, had watched him solve problems that most humans couldn't. Rex hadn't just stumbled onto the warehouse. He'd followed Marcus's trail through a city of 8 million people, through rain and traffic and 1,000 competing scents, because the bond between them was stronger than distance or obstacles. Marcus ran his hand over Rex's head, felt the solid warmth of the dog leaning into his touch, and said quietly, "Thank you, boy." The sun was rising by the time Marcus and Rex left the FBI field office. Chen had stayed behind to coordinate with Torres to provide additional evidence to begin the process of dismantling Brennan's network. Marcus had been ordered, politely but firmly, to go home, rest, and stay available for further questioning. He drove through morning traffic in a daze, Rex in the passenger seat, both of them exhausted. The city was waking up, people heading to work, joggers in the park, food trucks setting up for breakfast rush. Normal life continuing, while Marcus's entire world had shifted. His phone rang. Tony, the SWAT commander. "Marcus, what the hell happened last night? I'm hearing rumors about FBI raids, Brennan in custody, a trafficking ring. Tell me you didn't do something stupid." Marcus glanced at Rex. "Define stupid." "Jesus Christ. Are you okay? Is Rex okay?" "We're fine. Tired, but fine. I need you to listen to me. Brennan's lawyers are already working the narrative. They're saying you went rogue, that you fabricated evidence, that you orchestrated the whole thing to get revenge for your suspension. They're saying the trafficking facility was a setup, that those victims were staged." Marcus's grip tightened on the wheel. "That's insane. There were 12 people caged in that basement. 3 of them were children." "I know. Everyone who matters knows. But Brennan has friends, and they're circling the wagons. The Fraternal Order of Police is calling this an internal matter. The mayor's office is talking about not rushing to judgment. The narrative is getting muddied and fast. Torres has video evidence, security footage showing Brennan taking money from Kovac, removing evidence, overseeing trafficking operations. Which is great for the federal case, but Metro PD is already distancing itself. The commissioner gave a press conference an hour ago. Said Brennan's been placed on administrative leave pending investigation, said the department takes any allegations seriously, and then spent 10 minutes talking about your suspension and questioning whether you had ulterior motives. Marcus pulled into his apartment building's parking lot, put the car in park, and sat staring at the dashboard. "They're going to try to discredit me. They're already discrediting you, and Chen. They're saying she had a vendetta against Brennan, that she manipulated you, that the whole operation was illegal and anything found is inadmissible. The victims are real, Tony. Those people were being held prisoner, bought and sold like property. That's not something you can spin. I'm not saying they're right. I'm saying they're loud, and they have platforms, and they're going to make this as ugly as possible." Tony paused. "Watch your back, brother, and keep that dog close. If they couldn't kill him through official channels, they might try unofficial ones." The call ended. Marcus sat in silence, processing, then looked at Rex. The shepherd was watching him with those intelligent brown eyes, alert despite exhaustion, ready for whatever came next. "Looks like we're still in a fight," Marcus said. Rex's tail wagged once. "Yeah, I figured you'd say that." Marcus's apartment felt like a sanctuary after the chaos of the night. He fed Rex, watched the dog eat with the focus of someone who'd missed meals, then showered off the smoke and blood and stress. The burn on his shoulder was superficial, already treated by FBI medics, but it throbbed as hot water ran over it. He dressed in clean clothes, made coffee, and sat at his kitchen table with his laptop, doing what investigators do. He researched. The news coverage was already extensive. Local channels were running stories about FBI raid uncovers alleged trafficking operation. National news picked it up. Police captain arrested in human trafficking sting. But the stories were carefully worded, heavy on alleged and suspected, with quotes from Brennan's lawyer about false accusations and rogue officers. Marcus found the commissioner's press conference, watched it with growing anger. The man talked about Marcus's suspension like it was proof of instability, talked about Chen's IA investigation like it was a personal vendetta, and made the whole thing sound like 2 troubled cops had manufactured a crisis. "Captain Brennan has served this city with distinction for 30 years, the commissioner said into a forest of microphones. While these allegations are serious and will be investigated thoroughly, we must be cautious about rushing to judgment based on the actions of officers who were operating outside proper channels and legal authority. Marcus closed the laptop before he threw it across the room. Rex, sensing his agitation, padded over and pressed against his legs. The weight and warmth of the dog was grounding, calming. Marcus ran his hands through Rex's thick coat, felt the shepherd's steady breathing, and let himself center. They'd saved 12 people, 3 of them children. That was real. That mattered. Whatever political games were being played, whatever narrative Brennan's allies were spinning, the truth was that people who'd been prisoners were now free. His phone buzzed. Lieutenant Chen. "Turn on Channel 7. Marcus grabbed the remote, switched on the television. Channel 7 was running a special report, and the image on screen made his breath catch. Elena Petrova, the 16-year-old girl he'd pulled from the basement, was sitting in an interview room with a trauma counselor beside her. She looked small and fragile, but her eyes held steel. The reporter, a woman named Jennifer Kim, who'd built a reputation on investigative journalism, was conducting the interview with sensitivity and precision. "Elena, you were held in that facility for 8 months. Can you tell us what you experienced?" Elena spoke slowly, her English accented but clear. "They took me from my home, promised me job in America, good money, education. But when I arrived, they took my passport, put me in basement, said I owed them money for transportation, for housing, said I had to work to pay debt." "What kind of work?" "Whatever they wanted. Cleaning, cooking, some girls, other things." Elena's voice cracked, but she continued. "We were locked in, guards with guns. If we complained, they hit us. If we tried to escape..." She touched her arm, where bruises were visible even through her sleeves. "They made example. You told FBI that you saw police officers at the facility. Can you describe them?" "Yes. One man, silver hair, expensive clothes. He came 4 times that I saw. He talked with guards. He brought papers. Once he brought another man, older, with suit. They walked through, looking at us like we were animals at market." Elena looked directly at the camera. "The silver-haired man was police captain. The other man, the boss. They were partners." Jennifer Kim leaned forward. "Elena, some people are saying this story isn't true, that maybe you're confused or being coached. What do you say to them?" Elena's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed strong. "I say they are cowards. I say they protect evil men because they are evil too. I say those 3 children who were in basement with me, they cannot lie. They are too young to lie about such things, and I say the officer who came for us, the one with the dog, he risked his life. He is hero. The captain who tried to burn us alive, he is monster." The interview continued, but Marcus's phone was already exploding with messages. Tony, other cops he'd worked with over the years, even people he hadn't heard from in years. All of them variations on the same theme. "Watching Channel 7. That girl is brave as hell. You did good." Chen called again. Elena insisted on doing the interview, against FBI advice, against her counselor's recommendation. She said people need to hear truth from victim, not from lawyers and politicians. "She's going to get eaten alive by Brennan's people," Marcus said. "Maybe. Or maybe she just shifted the narrative. Because right now, everyone watching sees a 16-year-old trafficking victim calling out a police captain by name. That's hard to spin." Marcus hoped Chen was right. But he'd been a cop long enough to know that truth and justice weren't always the same thing. The call came at 2 in the afternoon, just as Marcus was trying unsuccessfully to nap. Commissioner's office. Report immediately for disciplinary hearing. Marcus dressed in his one good suit, the one he wore to funerals and commendations, and looked at Rex. "Stay here, boy. This one I have to do alone." Rex whined, not happy about being left behind, but settled onto his bed when Marcus commanded, "Stay." The drive to headquarters felt surreal. Marcus had been in that building 1,000 times, had walked those halls as a beat cop, a detective, a decorated officer with a career he was proud of. Now he was walking in as a suspended officer facing disciplinary action, maybe criminal charges. The hearing room was on the 8th floor, a windowless space with a long table where 3 officials sat. The commissioner, a representative from the Fraternal Order of Police, and an internal affairs captain Marcus didn't recognize. Lieutenant Chen was there too, sitting at a separate table, her face professionally blank. Marcus sat where indicated, and the commissioner began without preamble. Detective Holland, you stand accused of the following: conducting an unauthorized investigation while under suspension, breaking and entering, possession of an unregistered firearm, interfering with department operations, and collaborating with Lieutenant Chen in activities that violated multiple protocols and procedures. The commissioner read from a document without looking at Marcus. How do you respond? Guilty to all charges, Marcus said. That got the commissioner to look up. Excuse me? I said guilty. I did everything you just listed. I was suspended, and I investigated anyway. I entered that facility without authorization. I carried an unregistered weapon. I broke rules and protocols. Marcus met the commissioner's eyes. And I'd do it again. Because while I was breaking your rules, I saved 12 lives. While I was conducting my unauthorized investigation, I uncovered a trafficking ring protected by a captain in this department. While I was violating protocols, I stopped children from being burned alive by a cop who was willing to commit mass murder to cover his crimes. The FOP representative, a beefy man named Carlson, leaned forward. You're not helping yourself, Holland. I'm not trying to help myself. I'm stating facts. The IA captain, a woman named Roberts, spoke up. The FBI has made it clear that your actions, while legally questionable, did result in the rescue of trafficking victims and the arrest of individuals involved in serious crimes. However, the means by which you achieved those results cannot be overlooked. We cannot have officers operating outside legal boundaries, regardless of outcomes. I agree, Marcus said. That surprised them. Roberts raised an eyebrow. You agree? Yes, officers shouldn't operate outside legal boundaries. But captains shouldn't protect trafficking rings. And when the system itself is compromised, when the people in charge are the criminals, then the boundaries need to be crossed. Not because we want to, but because no one else will. The commissioner set down his papers. This isn't a philosophy debate, detective. This is a disciplinary hearing. You violated explicit orders, compromised investigations, and engaged in vigilante action. I engaged in police work. Real police work. The kind my father did before Captain Brennan's predecessor got him killed covering up evidence. Silence fell like a hammer. The commissioner's face went red. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. My father was investigating a corruption case 12 years ago. He was told to stand down, told to let it go. He didn't. And he was killed in a shootout that IA ruled clean, despite evidence suggesting otherwise. Marcus had never said this out loud, had carried it for years, but now, sitting in front of the same system that had failed his father, the words came pouring out. I became a cop to honor him, to be the kind of officer he was. Honest, brave, unwilling to look away. And if that means I get fired, so be it. But I won't apologize for doing the right thing. The commissioner looked at Chen. And you, Lieutenant? What's your position? Chen stood, straight-backed and clear-eyed. I provided Detective Holland with intelligence and equipment to investigate credible evidence of criminal activity within our department. I believed then, and I believe now, that Captain Brennan was protecting a trafficking operation. The evidence has proven that belief correct. If following that evidence means I face disciplinary action, I accept those consequences. You both understand that this could mean termination? Criminal charges? We understand, Marcus and Chen said in unison. The 3 officials conferred in whispers. Marcus sat still, hands folded, calm settling over him. Whatever happened now, he'd done what he set out to do. Rex was alive. The victims were free. Brennan was in custody. The rest was just bureaucracy. Finally, the commissioner spoke. The FBI has requested that we defer any disciplinary action until their investigation is complete. They've indicated that both of you are material witnesses in federal cases against Captain Brennan, Detective Voss, Nikolai Kovac, and potentially others. They've also indicated that prosecuting you for the methods used to gather evidence could jeopardize those cases. Marcus kept his expression neutral, but internally, he felt a flicker of hope. Therefore, the commissioner continued, your suspensions will continue pending the outcome of the federal investigation. You will remain available for testimony. You will not conduct any further independent investigations. You will not speak to media, and you will not discuss this case with anyone outside proper channels. Is that understood? Yes, sir. As for your K-9 partner, the commissioner looked genuinely uncomfortable. Given the circumstances and given that Rex was instrumental in the rescue operations, the department is rescinding its recommendation for early retirement. Rex will be returned to active duty status and reassigned pending your own status resolution. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Reassigned? To who? That's not your concern, Detective. You're suspended. Rex is department property. With respect, Commissioner, Rex is my partner. We've worked together for 6 years. Reassigning him would be not your decision. The commissioner stood, signaling the hearing was over. You're dismissed, Detective, both of you. Marcus stood in the hallway outside the hearing room, rage and helplessness warring in his chest. Chen joined him, her expression grim. They can't reassign Rex, Marcus said. He won't work with another handler. He's bonded to me. They can do whatever they want until this is resolved, and it could take months. Marcus's phone buzzed. Agent Torres. Detective Holland, I need you and Lieutenant Chen at my office, now. We have a problem. They drove in silence. The city passing outside the windows in a blur of glass and concrete, and people who had no idea that the systems designed to protect them were run by people willing to burn children alive to protect profits. At the FBI field office, Torres met them with an expression that made Marcus's tactical instincts scream warning. Nikolai Kovac is gone, she said without preamble. What do you mean gone? Chen demanded. I mean, we executed warrants on his offices, his warehouses, his properties, and he's vanished. His lawyers say he left the country yesterday on a scheduled business trip. His passport shows he flew to Moldova 6 hours before we raided the trafficking facility. Marcus processed this. 6 hours before. How did he know? Someone tipped him off. Someone with access to our investigation plans. Torres looked at both of them. I had 7 people read in on the operation. 3 FBI agents I've worked with for years, 2 federal prosecutors and 2 AUSAs. All of them vetted, all of them clean. Then how? Because one of those 7 people told someone they trusted. A spouse, a colleague, a supervisor. And somewhere in that chain, the information reached someone on Kovac's payroll. Torres pulled up a map on her screen. We've frozen his domestic assets, but he's got money offshore. Lots of it, and he's got connections throughout Eastern Europe. If he reaches Moldova, we'll never get him back. What about Brennan? Marcus asked. Can he flip on Kovac? Brennan's lawyers have already made it clear. He's not talking. He's claiming the security footage is fabricated, that Elena's testimony is coached, that he was at the facility responding to reports of a break-in, not conducting criminal activity. Without Kovac in custody, without the financial records, it's going to be hard to prove conspiracy. Chen shook her head. We have 12 victims. We have Elena willing to testify. We have video evidence of Brennan at a facility where trafficking occurred. His lawyers will argue he was investigating, that he was building a case, that the money he accepted was part of an undercover operation. They'll bury us in paperwork and reasonable doubt. Torres looked exhausted. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've seen guys like Brennan walk before. They know how to work the system because they are the system. Marcus felt the familiar cold settle in his chest. The same cold he'd felt watching Rex being taken to the kennels, watching Brennan operate with impunity, watching justice get buried under politics and money. "What if we find Kovac?" he asked quietly. Torres looked at him sharply. "You're suspended. You're a witness. You're not finding anyone." Hypothetically, if Kovac was located and arrested in a jurisdiction with extradition treaties, we could bring him back to face charges. But Moldova doesn't have an extradition treaty with the U.S. He's untouchable there. What if he wasn't in Moldova? Chen caught on to what Marcus was thinking. His businesses are international. Import-export means warehouses, offices, operations in multiple countries, some of which do have extradition treaties. Torres studied them both. "What are you thinking?" Marcus pulled out his phone, opened the notes he'd been compiling for days. "Kovac Import-Export has offices in 7 countries: Moldova, Romania, Poland, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, and France. The last 4 all have extradition treaties with the U.S. And you think he's still operating from one of those locations? I think a man who's built an empire doesn't just walk away. He's got assets, operations, people depending on him. He'll try to maintain control, which means he'll need to communicate with his network." Marcus looked at Chen. "When you copied files from the warehouse office before the drive was destroyed, did you see anything about international operations?" Chen thought back. "Financial transfers, shipping manifests. There was something about a facility in Rotterdam. High-security storage, climate-controlled. Like the basement facility here," Marcus said. Torres leaned back, considering. "Even if you're right, even if Kovac is in Rotterdam, I can't just send agents to raid foreign facilities. We'd need to coordinate with Interpol, with Dutch authorities, with people Kovac might have on payroll, people who'll tip him off before anyone gets close," Chen finished. "Exactly." Marcus met Torres's eyes. "What if someone went there unofficially? Someone who's already suspended, already facing disciplinary action, someone who has nothing to lose?" "You're talking about going to Rotterdam, to a foreign country, to investigate an international criminal, while you're suspended from your own police department and under investigation yourself." "Yes, that's insane." "Yes." Torres looked at him for a long moment, then at Chen, then back at Marcus. "If you did something that reckless, that stupid, that completely outside legal boundaries, I would have to officially condemn it. I would have to state publicly that you were acting alone, without FBI knowledge or approval." "I understand." "And if you found evidence of Kovac's location, evidence of ongoing criminal activity, evidence that Dutch authorities could use to arrest him, I would have to accept that evidence and work with international partners to ensure proper prosecution." Marcus felt something like hope kindle. "And hypothetically, if I needed someone watching my back, someone with investigative experience and tactical training?" Chen raised her hand. "I've always wanted to see Amsterdam." Torres stood, walked to her office door, closed it. When she turned back, her expression was steel. "I can give you 48 hours before the FBI officially notices Kovac is out of the country. I can provide you with contact information for an Interpol agent in Rotterdam who owes me a favor. I cannot provide you with badges, weapons, or any official support. If you get arrested, if you get killed, if this goes sideways, you're on your own." "We understand." "And the dog?" Torres asked. "If they're reassigning Rex, how are you going to—" Marcus's phone buzzed. "Officer Davis." "Detective, you need to know. They're moving Rex tonight. New handler is taking custody at 1800 hours. I tried to slow it down, but Captain Roberts is pushing it through." Marcus checked his watch. 4 hours. He looked at Torres, at Chen, and made a decision that would either save everything or destroy what little he had left. "I need to go," he said. "What are you going to do?" Torres asked. Marcus was already heading for the door. "Something stupid." Rex was being reassigned in 4 hours. Kovac was escaping justice. Brennan's lawyers were building a defense. But Marcus Holland had spent 6 years with a dog who taught him that loyalty mattered more than rules, that sometimes the right thing and the legal thing weren't the same, and that when someone you love is in danger, you don't wait for permission to act. He was going to get his partner back, and then he was going to Rotterdam. Marcus drove through afternoon traffic with the single-minded focus of a man on a mission. Chen sat in the passenger seat, phone pressed to her ear, making arrangements Marcus didn't want to know the details of. Plausible deniability worked both ways. "Okay," Chen said, hanging up. "I've got us on a flight to Amsterdam tonight at 11:45 p.m. Connects through London. We land in Rotterdam at 2 p.m. local time tomorrow. I use personal credit cards, civilian names, nothing that traces to the department." "What did you tell your captain?" "That I'm taking personal days. Family emergency." She looked at him. "What are you going to tell yours?" "Nothing. I'm suspended. I don't answer to anyone until the federal investigation concludes." "And Rex? You can't just steal a police dog, Marcus. That's actual theft of government property." "I'm not stealing him. I'm preventing an improper reassignment that will traumatize a working dog and reduce his effectiveness." Even as he said it, Marcus knew how thin that justification was. But he also knew that letting Rex be reassigned to a handler who didn't know him, didn't understand him, would break something in the dog that might never heal. Chen was quiet for a moment. "You know there's no coming back from this, right? Once you take Rex, once we get on that plane, we're committed. If this doesn't work, if we don't find Kovac, if we can't prove the connection, you lose everything. Your career, your pension, possibly your freedom." Marcus thought about his father, about the photo on his desk of a man who'd believed in doing the right thing even when it cost him his life. He thought about Elena Petrova, 16 years old and brave enough to tell her story on television. He thought about Rex, sitting in a kennel, waiting for a partner who'd promised to come back. "I've already lost everything that matters if I walk away now," Marcus said. Chen nodded slowly. "Okay. Then let's get your dog and catch a flight." The Metropolitan Police Department looked different in the late afternoon light, shadows stretching long across the parking lot. Marcus parked 2 blocks away in a public garage and studied the building through binoculars. The K9 unit entrance was on the south side, a secure access point with key card entry. Officer Davis would be on duty until 6 when the evening shift took over. The new handler, Marcus had learned his name was Officer Brett Hoskins, was scheduled to take custody of Rex at 1800 hours, exactly 2 hours from now. Marcus's phone buzzed. Davis texting, "Handler arrived early. They're processing transfer paperwork now. You've got maybe 90 minutes. Marcus texted back, "I need a distraction. 20 minutes. The reply came immediately. "You're going to get me fired. I'll make sure they know you had nothing to do with it." Long pause. Then, "Your father trained me at the academy, taught me what it meant to be a real cop. I'll give you 20 minutes. Make them count." Marcus felt gratitude and guilt in equal measure. "Thank you." He turned to Chen. "I'm going in. If I'm not out in 30 minutes, leave without me." "Not a chance." "Chen, we're partners now, Holland. You don't leave Rex behind, I don't leave you behind. That's how this works." Marcus looked at her. This woman he barely knew a week ago, who'd risked her career to investigate corruption, who'd stood beside him in a firefight, who was now helping him commit what was technically a felony, and nodded. They moved through the parking lot separately, Chen heading for the main entrance while Marcus circled to the south side. His key card had been deactivated when he was suspended, but he'd been a cop for 12 years. He knew the building. He knew the blind spots in camera coverage. He knew which doors had faulty locks that maintenance kept meaning to fix but never did. The service entrance near the evidence bay opened with a firm push, and Marcus's knowledge of exactly which part of the frame was warped. He slipped inside, moved through corridors he'd walked thousands of times, now feeling like an intruder in his own house. The K-9 unit was in the basement. Marcus took the stairs, each step careful and quiet, listening for voices, for footsteps, for any indication he'd been spotted. At 5:42 p.m., the fire alarm went off. The building erupted in controlled chaos. Officers began evacuating per protocol, moving toward designated assembly points. Marcus used the confusion to reach the K-9 unit entrance, where Davis stood holding the door open. "Faulty sensor in the evidence bay," Davis said quietly. "Funny how those things malfunction." "You've got 15 minutes before they clear the building and realize it's a false alarm." Marcus gripped the young officer's shoulder. "Thank you. Don't thank me. Just make sure whatever you're doing is worth it." Davis glanced down the corridor. "Rex is in Kennel 7. Hoskins left the transfer papers on the desk when the alarm went off. And Detective, Rex hasn't eaten in 2 days. He knows something's wrong." That hurt worse than the burn on Marcus's shoulder. He moved into the kennel area, past the other dogs barking and agitated from the alarm, until he reached Kennel 7. Rex was sitting at the back of the cage, ears forward, watching the door. When he saw Marcus, the German Shepherd's entire body went rigid with attention, then started trembling with barely contained excitement. "Hey, boy," Marcus said softly, unlocking the kennel. "Sorry I'm late." Rex bounded forward, pressed against Marcus's legs, whining with relief and joy. Marcus knelt, ran his hands over the dog's body, checking for injuries or signs of mistreatment. Physically, Rex was fine, but emotionally, Marcus could feel the stress, the confusion, the anxiety of being separated from his partner. "I know," Marcus said quietly. "I know it's been hard. But we're together now, and we're going to finish this. You and me, just like always." He attached a lead to Rex's collar, grabbed the dog's go-bag from the hook, food, water bowl, medical supplies, Rex's favorite training toy, and headed for the exit. Davis met them at the door. "South exit is clear for 90 seconds. After that, you're on your own." "How did you—" "I didn't. I'm just a guy who's really bad at his job and accidentally left a door unlocked during a fire alarm." Davis looked at Rex, then at Marcus. "Bring him back safe, Detective. Both of you." Marcus and Rex moved fast through the south exit, across the parking lot, into the shadows of evening. Behind them, the fire alarm finally stopped, and Marcus knew he had minutes before someone realized Rex was gone, before the alert went out, before this became official. Chen was waiting at the car, engine running. Rex jumped into the back seat like he'd done 1,000 times before, and Marcus climbed into the passenger seat. They pulled out of the garage at normal speed. Nothing suspicious. Just another car in evening traffic. Marcus's phone started ringing. The precinct. He ignored it. They drove to Marcus's apartment, where he'd already packed a bag. Clothes, Rex's documentation and medical records, his passport, and a flash drive containing every piece of information he'd compiled on Kovich's operation. "We've got 4 hours until the flight," Chen said. "They'll be looking for you by then. Airport security will have your photo." "I know." "So? How do we get you and a police dog through TSA and onto an international flight?" Marcus pulled out his phone, made a call to a number he'd been hoping he'd never have to use. It rang 3 times before a gruff voice answered. "Holland, didn't think I'd hear from you." "Hey, Gus, I need a favor." Augustus, Gus. Hernandez was a former K-9 handler who'd retired 5 years ago after taking a bullet during a robbery. He'd moved into private security, running a company that provided guard dogs and protection services to corporate clients. More importantly, he moved dogs across state lines and internationally as part of his business. "What kind of favor?" Gus asked cautiously. "The kind that involves you not asking questions and me owing you for the rest of my life." Gus was quiet for a moment. "I saw the news. Trafficking ring, Brennan arrested, your suspension." "You're in deep, aren't you?" deeper than I've ever been. And you need to move a dog. Internationally. Tonight, with paperwork that looks legitimate enough to pass inspection. Jesus, Marcus, you know what you're asking? I know, and I wouldn't ask if there was any other way. Another pause. This dog, it's Rex, isn't it? Your partner? Yes. And they're trying to reassign him? They're trying to put him down, Gus. They're calling him unstable, aggressive, dangerous. But really, they're trying to eliminate the one witness who can't be threatened or bought. Rex knows things, found things, and someone wants him gone. Gus swore softly. Where are you? My apartment. Stay there. I'll be there in 45 minutes. And Holland, this makes us even for that thing in Baltimore. We were never uneven on Baltimore. You saved my life. Yeah. Well, now you're saving Rex's. That counts for something. Gus arrived exactly 45 minutes later, driving a van with Hernandez Security Solutions emblazoned on the side. He was in his 50s now, gray-haired and carrying weight around his middle, but his eyes were still sharp and his handshake was still firm. He looked at Rex, and the German Shepherd looked back, recognizing a fellow professional. He looks good, Gus said. Stressed, but good. You've taken care of him. I've tried. Gus opened the back of his van, revealing a professional-grade travel crate with water, bedding, and proper ventilation. I've got paperwork for a security dog transfer to a client in Rotterdam. Health certificates, import permits, the works. All legitimate, all traceable to my company. Rex will fly cargo on the same flight you're on. When you land, he'll clear customs as a working dog being delivered to a corporate client. And the client? Is actually a holding company I own for situations exactly like this. Gus pulled out a tablet, showed Marcus the documentation. According to these papers, Rex is being transferred to provide security services for a 2-week contract. After 2 weeks, he returns to the U.S., all legal, all above board. Marcus looked at the documentation, professional and complete. This must have cost a fortune to set up. It cost me about 3 hours and some favors. The international dog transport business is surprisingly loose on regulations if you know who to talk to. Gus knelt down, let Rex sniff his hand. Hey there, soldier. You ready for an adventure? Rex's tail wagged cautiously. He remembers you, Marcus said. Dogs don't forget the people who matter. Gus stood. Get him in the crate. I'll drive him to cargo, get him processed. You and Lieutenant Chen take a separate car to the airport, check in like normal passengers. If anyone asks, you're visiting Amsterdam for tourism? You've got hotel reservations? Chen nodded. Booked this afternoon. Small hotel in Rotterdam, nothing fancy, pays cash. Good. Keep your heads down, don't draw attention, and for God's sake, don't get arrested in a foreign country. I can't help you there. Marcus helped Rex into the travel crate, made sure the dog had water and his favorite toy, and crouched down to look through the mesh door. I'll see you in Rotterdam, he said quietly. Be good for Gus. This is important, boy. We're going to finish what you started. Rex licked Marcus's fingers through the mesh, trusting and loyal, and Marcus felt his throat tighten. Gus loaded the crate into the van. I'll text you when he's processed and loaded. Don't worry, Holland. I've moved over 100 dogs internationally. He'll be safe. As Gus drove away with Rex, Marcus felt the absence like a physical wound. 12 years as a cop, 6 years with Rex, and it always came down to this. Trust, faith, the belief that doing the right thing would somehow work out. Chen put a hand on his shoulder. He'll be okay, and we're going to make this worth it. Yeah, Marcus said, watching the van disappear into traffic. We better. The flight from JFK to London Heathrow was 6 hours of tension. Marcus kept expecting airport security to pull him aside, kept waiting for federal agents to board the plane, kept anticipating the moment when everything would fall apart. But the moment never came. They boarded, took their seats in economy, and somewhere below in the cargo hold, Rex made the same journey. Chen slept. Marcus couldn't. He spent the flight reviewing everything they knew about Kovach's operation, memorizing details, building a mental map of what they were walking into. Kovach Import-Export had a warehouse facility in Rotterdam's port district. According to the business records Chen had accessed, it specialized in high-value, climate-controlled storage for sensitive materials. The same language used for the facility in their home city, the same setup, which meant potentially the same operation. If they could find evidence, victims, documents, anything concrete, Dutch authorities could arrest Kovach. And once he was in custody, extradition to the U.S. was possible. Torres would have her case. Elena and the other victims would have justice. Brennan would have no one to protect him. But if they were wrong, if Kovach wasn't in Rotterdam, if the facility was clean, then Marcus had thrown away his career and his freedom for nothing. The plane landed at Heathrow at 6:30 a.m. local time. They had a 3-hour layover before the connection to Rotterdam. Marcus checked his phone, saw a text from Gus. Package loaded and secured. Flight departed on time. You owe me so many beers. Another text, this one from Officer Davis. All hell broke loose when they discovered Rex missing. Hoskins filed report for stolen department property. APB issued. They're searching your apartment. Be careful. Marcus deleted both messages and powered down his phone. From this point forward, they were off the grid. The flight to Rotterdam was short, barely an hour. They landed at Rotterdam-The Hague Airport at 2:15 p.m., exactly on schedule. Clearing customs took 20 minutes, and then they were through in the Netherlands. Technically fugitives, but functionally tourists. Gus had arranged for Rex to be delivered to their hotel. When Marcus and Chen arrived at the small 3-story building in Rotterdam's Oud-Westen neighborhood, the manager handed Marcus an envelope along with the room key. Inside was a note. Your security equipment has been delivered to room 307. Good luck. G. Room 307 contained 2 beds, a small bathroom, and in the corner, a professional travel crate. Marcus opened it, and Rex bounded out, tail wagging, circling Marcus with the enthusiasm of a dog who'd been cooped up too long. Hey, boy, Marcus said, running his hands over Rex's coat, checking that the journey hadn't harmed him. We made it. We're really doing this. Chen was already setting up her laptop, connecting to the internet through a VPN, pulling up maps and satellite imagery of Rotterdam's port district. Kovach's warehouse is here, she said, pointing to a location on the screen. It's in the Walhaven industrial area, right on the water. Heavy security, limited access, surrounded by other shipping facilities. Marcus studied the imagery. Cameras? Definitely. Perimeter fencing, guard station at the entrance, probably motion sensors. Chen zoomed in. But it's also right next to the Nieuwe Maas River. Water access. You're thinking approach from the river? I'm thinking we need to scout it first, see what we're dealing with, and then make a plan that doesn't get us arrested or killed. Marcus's phone buzzed. A new number, but when he answered, he recognized Agent Torres's voice. You're insane, she said without preamble. You stole a police dog and flew to Rotterdam. Do you have any idea how many laws you've broken? Several. The Metro PD has issued a warrant for your arrest. Theft of department property, violation of suspension terms, fleeing jurisdiction. If you come back, you're going to jail. Only if I come back empty-handed. Torres sighed. I can't help you, Marcus. Officially, I don't even know where you are. But unofficially, I'm sending you contact information for Inspector Willem de Vries, Rotterdam Police. He's with their human trafficking unit, and he's been tracking Kovach's European operations for 18 months. If you find something, call him. He'll move fast. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just don't die in a foreign country. It creates so much paperwork. The call ended. Seconds later, Marcus's phone received a text with a name and number. Chen looked up from her laptop. We have local support? Maybe, if we find something worth supporting. Then let's go find something. The port of Rotterdam was one of the largest in the world, a sprawling complex of docks, warehouses, cranes, and shipping containers that stretched for miles along the river. Marcus and Chen drove through the industrial district in a rental car, Rex in the back seat, all of them taking in the scale of the operation. Kovacs warehouse was in a section called Walhaven, a high-security area that required gate access and identification. They couldn't just drive up and knock, but they could watch. Marcus parked half a mile away in a public area near a small park that overlooked the port. Through binoculars, he could see the warehouse, a modern structure, 3 stories, heavy security, and a steady flow of trucks entering and leaving. "That's a lot of traffic for a storage facility," Chen observed. Marcus watched a truck pull up to the loading dock, saw workers unload containers, and felt his instincts tingle. "What's the cover story for this place?" Chen checked her notes. According to business records, Kovacs Import-Export specializes in art and antiques, high-value items that require climate control and security. Art and antiques that need deliveries at 3 in the afternoon on a Wednesday? Exactly. They watched for 2 hours, documenting every vehicle, every person, every pattern. Marcus photographed license plates while Chen ran them through databases she accessed through increasingly questionable methods. "Most of these trucks are registered to legitimate shipping companies," she said, "but 2 of them are registered to shell corporations. Same setup as the warehouse back home." Rex, sitting in the back seat, suddenly growled. Low, warning, focused. Marcus turned to see what had triggered the alert. A black SUV was pulling into the warehouse facility, and through the binoculars, he caught a glimpse of the passenger. Nikolai Kovacs. "Target spotted," Marcus said quietly. Chen grabbed her camera, zoomed in, snapped photographs as the SUV disappeared into the warehouse. "Torres said he fled to Moldova." "Torres said his passport showed a flight to Moldova. Doesn't mean he stayed there." Marcus watched the warehouse, mind working through implications. "He came here to manage the crisis. The U.S. facility is compromised. Brennan is arrested. The operation is exposed. He needs to shut down, relocate, protect assets. Which means there might be evidence inside right now. Documents, computers, maybe even victims being moved." Marcus looked at Rex. The German Shepherd was focused on the warehouse, nose working the air even from half a mile away. "What do you smell, boy?" Rex whined, shifted his weight. The body language Marcus had learned to read over 6 years of partnership. The dog was alerting. Not to explosives or drugs, but to something. The same something he'd alerted to at the warehouse back home. People. Scared people. Victims. "We need to get closer," Marcus said. "How? The place is locked down tighter than a bank." Marcus studied the perimeter, the fencing, the camera coverage. Frontal approach was impossible. Water approach would be visible and exposed. But there was a third option, one that required timing, luck, and the kind of reckless courage that had defined Marcus's entire week. "That truck," he said, pointing to a delivery vehicle pulling up to the gate. "It's registered to one of the shell corporations, which means it's Kovacs's. It'll have access." "You want to infiltrate by hiding on a truck?" "I want to get Rex close enough to confirm what he's alerting to. If there are victims in that warehouse, Rex will find them. And if Rex finds them, we call Inspector de Vries, and the Dutch police raid the facility." Chen looked at him like he was insane, which, Marcus had to admit, was fair. "That's not a plan," she said. "That's a suicide mission with extra steps." "You have a better idea?" She thought for a moment, then sighed. "Yeah, we do it together. You, me, and Rex. Because if you're going to do something monumentally stupid, you should at least have backup." Marcus felt a surge of respect for this woman who'd risked everything to stand beside him. "Torres told us not to get arrested in a foreign country. Then we better not get caught." They waited until evening, when the port traffic increased and the shadows grew long. The truck they'd identified made regular trips, entering the facility every 45 minutes like clockwork. On the fourth trip, Marcus and Chen made their move. The truck stopped at a red light 2 blocks from the warehouse. Marcus and Rex moved fast, using the blind spot in the driver's mirrors, and Marcus boosted Rex into the cargo area, then pulled himself up. Chen followed, and they pressed against the interior wall, hidden behind stacked containers. The truck started moving again. 30 seconds later, it stopped at the security gate. Voices in Dutch. Marcus didn't understand the words, but the tone was routine. Bored guard checking familiar truck. The gate beeped, opened, and they were through. The truck drove into the warehouse facility, backing up to a loading dock. Marcus heard the driver exit, heard the cargo door being opened, and pressed deeper into shadow with Rex tucked against his side. Workers unloaded containers around them, speaking Dutch and what sounded like Russian. Close enough that Marcus could smell cigarette smoke, hear individual words, feel the proximity of discovery. Then the workers moved away onto the next truck, and Marcus, Chen, and Rex slipped out of the cargo area into the warehouse. The interior was exactly what Marcus expected. Industrial storage, climate-controlled, aisles of containers and crates. But in the back, past the legitimate operations, there would be something else, the same setup as before, the same nightmare. Rex's nose was working overtime, pulling against the lead, wanting to search, to alert, to do his job. Marcus kept him close, moving through the aisles, using containers as cover. They found it in the basement, a freight elevator concealed behind what looked like a maintenance area. The controls required a key card, but Chen bypassed the lock in 40 seconds with tools that were definitely not legal. The elevator descended, opened into a corridor that could have been copy-pasted from the facility back home. White walls, LED lighting, heavy steel doors, and the same smell: disinfectant, fear, despair. Rex alerted immediately, a low whine followed by sitting at attention. The signal for, "I found what we're looking for." Marcus approached the first door, looked through the observation slot, and saw a young woman sitting on a cot, staring at nothing. The second door held 2 teenagers. The third held a child who couldn't have been more than 12. "Jesus," Chen breathed, filming everything with her phone. They moved along the corridor, documenting, counting. 8 rooms, 11 victims. All of them caged. All of them evidence of an operation that had simply moved continents when the U.S. facility was compromised. At the end of the corridor was an office. Marcus tried the door, found it unlocked, and inside hit the intelligence jackpot. A computer, file cabinets, and a wall-mounted screen showing security footage from multiple facilities. Not just Rotterdam, Prague, Berlin, Paris, an entire network, all connected, all operating under Kovach's control. Chen went straight for the computer, USB drive ready. "This is it. This is everything. Financial records, shipping manifests, communications. If I can copy this, we can dismantle his entire operation." "How long?" 10 minutes. Marcus kept watch on the corridor, Rex at his side, both of them listening for footsteps, for alarms, for the moment when their luck ran out. The moment came at 8 minutes. Voices from the elevator. Multiple people moving fast, speaking Russian. Kovach's voice, sharp and authoritative, giving orders. Chen yanked the USB drive. "Got it. Not everything, but enough." "Exit? Same way we came in is blocked." Marcus scanned the office, saw a door marked "Emergency Exit" in Dutch and English. He pushed it open, found stairs leading up. "Move!" They ran, Rex leading the way, up 2 flights of stairs that emerged in a different section of the warehouse. Behind them, alarms began blaring. They'd been discovered. The warehouse erupted in activity. Workers running, guards shouting, security protocols activating. Marcus, Chen, and Rex were trapped inside a hostile facility in a foreign country with evidence of international trafficking and no clear exit. Marcus pulled out his phone, called the number Torres had sent. "Inspector De Vries. This is Detective Marcus Holland, Metro PD. I'm inside the Kovach import-export warehouse in Walhaven with evidence of human trafficking. We have victims in the basement. We have digital evidence of an international network, and we have Nikolai Kovach on site. I need police here now. Your American police? In my jurisdiction? Without authorization? I'm a suspended American cop who's about to get killed by traffickers if you don't send backup. I'll accept whatever consequences you want after the victims are safe. De Vries was quiet for exactly 2 seconds. What's your location? Northeast corner of the warehouse, 3rd floor. Stay there, don't move, and don't get killed before I arrive. I have many questions for you. The call ended. Marcus looked at Chen. Police are coming, and Kovach's people are coming faster. Rex growled, ears forward, focused on the stairs. Footsteps getting closer. Marcus drew the weapon he'd brought from his father's storage unit, the unregistered Glock that was going to add so many charges to his legal problems, but right now was the only thing standing between them and disaster. Find cover, he told Chen. And whatever happens, make sure that USB drive gets to De Vries. Marcus, promise me. Chen looked at him, at Rex, at the situation they'd gotten themselves into, and nodded. I promise. The door burst open. Guards, armed, professional, fanning out to secure the floor. Marcus counted 6, maybe 7, all of them focused on finding the intruders. And in the middle of them, directing operations with the calm of someone who'd done this 1,000 times, was Nikolai Kovach. Marcus and Chen were hidden behind storage containers, Rex pressed against Marcus's leg, waiting for the command to act. The guards were searching methodically, checking aisles, clearing sections. It was only a matter of time. Marcus's phone buzzed silently. Text from De Vries. 2 minutes out. Hold position. 2 minutes. 120 seconds. An eternity when armed men were hunting you. Rex shifted, nose pointed toward their hiding spot, and Marcus knew the dog had caught their scent. In seconds, they'd be discovered. He had 2 choices. Hide and hope the police arrived before Kovach's guards found them, or create a distraction, draw fire, buy Chen time to escape with the evidence. Marcus looked at Rex, at the loyal brown eyes that had never doubted him, that had followed him into danger again and again, that trusted him absolutely. Rex, Marcus whispered. Seek. The German shepherd moved instantly, slipping through the containers with the silent grace of a predator, and seconds later, barked. Loud, aggressive, drawing every guard's attention to the opposite side of the floor. Kovach shouted orders. Guards converged on Rex's position. And Marcus moved, fast and quiet, away from Chen's hiding spot, weapon drawn, putting distance between the evidence and the threat. He emerged into an aisle, weapon up, and came face to face with Nikolai Kovach. The trafficker was older in person, lines around his eyes, gray in his hair, but his cold blue eyes held the flat affect of someone who viewed people as commodities. He looked at Marcus without fear, without surprise, like this was just another business complication to manage. Detective Holland, Kovach said, his accent slight but precise. Captain Brennan told me you were stubborn. I should have listened. Where's my dog? Being handled by professionals. Don't worry, I don't kill valuable animals, only troublesome police. Kovach's hand moved toward his jacket. Marcus fired, a warning shot that sparked off concrete inches from the trafficker's head. Kovach froze. Hands where I can see them. Kovach complied, slowly raising his hands. You're in my facility, in my country, holding an illegal weapon. Even if Dutch police arrive, you'll be arrested. You've accomplished nothing. I've found your victims. I've documented your operation. I've proven the connection between you and Brennan. That's not nothing. It's evidence gathered illegally by a suspended police officer with no jurisdiction. It will never see a courtroom. Marcus heard sirens in the distance. Close now, maybe 60 seconds away. Want to bet? Marcus said. That's when he heard it. Rex's yelp of pain. Sharp, sudden, the sound of a dog being hurt. Rage flooded Marcus's vision. He started toward the sound, and Kovach moved, pulling a weapon from behind his back. Marcus spun, fired on instinct, and Kovach went down, clutching his shoulder, weapon clattering away. "Rex!" Marcus shouted, running toward where he'd sent the dog. He found Rex surrounded by 3 guards, one of them holding a stun baton, the shepherd on the ground, dazed but alive. Marcus didn't think. He fired 3 times, precise shots that dropped 2 guards and sent the 3rd scrambling for cover. Then he scooped up Rex, checked for injuries, found burns from the stun baton, but nothing critical. The dog was conscious, aware, struggling to stand. "Easy, boy. I've got you." The warehouse doors burst open. Dutch police in tactical gear, armed and professional, flooded the building with military precision. Marcus set down his weapon, raised his hands, and watched as Inspector Willem de Vries, a tall man in his 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense bearing, assessed the situation. "Detective Holland, I presume?" "Yes, sir." "You've had a busy day." De Vries looked at Kovach, wounded and being secured by officers. "Is this the man you told me about?" "Nikolai Kovach, wanted in the United States for human trafficking, racketeering, and about a dozen other charges." "And the victims you mentioned?" "Basement level. 11 people, 3 of them children." De Vries gave orders in Dutch, and officers moved to secure the basement. He turned back to Marcus. "You're under arrest for illegal entry, possession of a firearm, and various other crimes I'll think of once I've had coffee. But first, you and I are going to have a conversation about why an American detective is conducting unauthorized operations in my city. Can I have 5 minutes with my dog first? He was attacked." De Vries looked at Rex, saw the burns, and his expression softened slightly. "5 minutes. Then we talk." The Rotterdam Police Headquarters was a modern glass and steel building that somehow managed to feel both intimidating and bureaucratic at the same time. Marcus sat in an interrogation room that could have been anywhere in the world. Gray walls, metal table, uncomfortable chairs, and a 2-way mirror that probably had people watching from the other side. Rex lay at his feet, a bandage wrapped around his rib cage where the stun baton had burned him. A police veterinarian had examined the dog, declared the injuries superficial, and cleared him to stay with Marcus. The shepherd was exhausted but alert, his brown eyes never leaving his partner. Inspector de Vries sat across the table, a folder open in front of him, coffee cooling in a plain white mug. He'd been listening to Marcus's account for 90 minutes, occasionally asking questions, mostly just absorbing the insanity of what the American detective had done. "Let me see if I understand correctly," de Vries said in perfect English. "You were suspended from your police department for disobeying orders. You then conducted an unauthorized investigation into your captain, discovered a human trafficking ring, rescued 12 victims, were fired upon by the captain himself, stole your police dog, fled the country, and broke into a secure facility in Rotterdam to gather evidence against an international criminal." "That's accurate," Marcus said, "and you did all of this without any official authorization, backup, or jurisdiction." "Also accurate." De Vries leaned back, studied Marcus with the intensity of someone trying to determine if he was dealing with a hero or a lunatic. "You're either the bravest police officer I've ever met or the most reckless. I haven't decided which." "Can it be both?" The inspector's mouth twitched in what might have been a smile. "Lieutenant Chen provided us with the USB drive. Our tech unit is analyzing the contents now, but preliminary examination shows financial records, shipping manifests, and communications that connect Kovach's operations across 7 countries. If this evidence is valid, we're looking at one of the largest trafficking networks uncovered in Europe in the last decade. It's valid. Which brings me to the legal problem. You obtained this evidence through illegal entry, illegal surveillance, and theft. Under Dutch law and under most international legal standards, this evidence could be deemed inadmissible. Marcus felt his stomach sink. They'd risked everything, crossed every line, and the evidence might be thrown out because of how they'd obtained it. De Vries held up a hand. However, there are exceptions. If the evidence was gathered in the course of preventing imminent harm to victims, if it was discovered during lawful police operations, or if it was provided by confidential informants working under police supervision. He looked at Marcus meaningfully. Then the evidence becomes admissible. I don't understand. Let me be very clear, Detective Holland. What you did was illegal. If I process this properly, you'll be charged, tried, and likely imprisoned. Your career will be over. Your partner, he glanced at Rex, will be confiscated, and the evidence you gathered will be suppressed. Everyone loses except Kovach's lawyers. Marcus waited, sensing there was more. However, DeVries continued, if I were to discover that you had been working as a confidential informant for Dutch police, that you had contacted me prior to your actions, and that you had been operating under my supervision, then everything changes. The evidence becomes legal. Kovach goes to prison. The victims are saved. And you return to America as a witness rather than a criminal. Understanding dawned slowly. DeVries was offering him a lifeline, a legal fiction that would make everything they'd done retroactively legitimate. Why would you do that? Marcus asked. Because I've been investigating Kovach for 18 months. I've watched victims disappear, watched evidence get destroyed, watched this monster operate with impunity because I couldn't get close enough to gather proof. You handed me everything I needed on a USB drive. DeVries closed the folder. I'm a pragmatist, detective. I care about results. And your results just gave me the case of my career. What do you need from me? I need you to sign a statement saying you contacted Dutch police before entering that warehouse, that you were acting under my direction, and that all evidence was gathered pursuant to an ongoing investigation. I need Lieutenant Chen to corroborate this statement, and I need you to testify when this goes to trial. Done. DeVries pulled out documents, already prepared, and slid them across the table. Marcus read carefully, saw the careful wording that transformed illegal vigilante action into lawful police cooperation, and signed. What happens now? Marcus asked. Now we process the 11 victims we found in Kovach's facility. We coordinate with Interpol and law enforcement in 6 other countries to execute simultaneous raids on his network. We build an airtight case for trafficking, racketeering, and about 40 other charges. And we make sure Nikolai Kovach never sees freedom again. DeVries stood. You and Lieutenant Chen will stay in Rotterdam for 72 hours as material witnesses. After that, you're free to return to America. But Detective Holland, when you get home, you need to deal with your own legal problems. I can't help you there. I know. And the dog? DeVries looked at Rex. He's technically stolen property. He's my partner. Yes, I can see that. The inspector called out in Dutch, and a uniformed officer entered with documents. DeVries signed them, then handed them to Marcus. These are temporary custody papers, recognizing Rex as a working police dog under international law enforcement cooperation protocols. They're valid for 6 months. After that, you'll need to sort out ownership with your department. Marcus looked at the papers, felt gratitude and relief wash over him. Thank you, Inspector. Don't thank me. Just make sure when you testify, you remember who supervised your investigation. DeVries headed for the door, then paused. And Detective, that dog of yours? He's remarkable. The way he tracked you across a foreign city, the way he alerted to the victims, the loyalty he showed under fire. You should never have been separated from him in the first place. I know. Good. Now get some rest. Tomorrow we start building the case that will destroy Kovach's empire. The hotel room felt like sanctuary. Marcus showered, washed away sweat and stress and smoke, and emerged to find Chen sitting on her bed with her laptop, monitoring news feeds. It's already going international, she said, turning the screen so Marcus could see. Dutch police raid uncovers trafficking network, 11 victims freed, American fugitive financier arrested. The story doesn't mention you or Rex yet, but it will. Marcus sat on the other bed, Rex immediately jumping up beside him despite regulations about dogs on furniture. Marcus didn't have the heart to correct him. "What about back home?" he asked. "Torres called while you were in the shower. The FBI executed warrants on all of Brennan's properties based on the evidence we found here. They discovered offshore accounts, encrypted communications, and a safe deposit box containing over $200,000 in cash." Chen smiled grimly. Brennan's lawyers were arguing circumstantial evidence and police vendetta. Now they're scrambling to negotiate a plea deal. And Voss? Singing like a canary. The moment Brennan got arrested, Voss flipped. He's giving statements about everything: evidence tampering, witness intimidation, the whole conspiracy. He's trying to save himself. Marcus felt cold satisfaction. The system he'd served for 12 years was finally working the way it was supposed to. Not because the right people were in charge, but because good cops like Chen and Torres had refused to give up. "What about us?" Marcus asked. "The warrants? The charges?" "Torres is working it. She's arguing that your actions led directly to the exposure of an international trafficking ring and the arrest of multiple conspirators. She's pushing for the charges to be dropped in exchange for your testimony." Chen closed the laptop. "But Marcus, even if the criminal charges go away, your career is probably over. The department isn't going to take you back after you stole Rex and fled the country." Marcus ran his hand over Rex's head, felt the solid warmth of the dog pressed against his side. "I know. Are you okay with that?" He thought about it. 12 years as a cop, climbing ranks, earning commendations, building a reputation. All of it gone because he'd refused to let his partner die and refused to let traffickers operate with impunity. "Yeah," Marcus said. "I'm okay with it. Being a cop was about serving justice, protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. If the department cares more about rules than right and wrong, then it's not the job I signed up for anyway." Chen nodded slowly. "Torres also said the victims you rescued, the 12 from the facility back home, they're recovering. Elena specifically asked about you. She wanted to know if you were safe, if Rex was safe. She said you promised you'd finish what you started, and she wanted to make sure you kept that promise." Marcus felt something tight in his chest ease. "We did. Rex and we finished it." "Yeah, you did." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, two cops who'd risked everything and somehow come out the other side. "What will you do?" Marcus asked. "After this? I don't know. Torres offered me a position with FBI if Metro PD pushes me out. Says they need investigators who actually care about justice." Chen smiled. "I'm thinking about taking it. What about you?" Marcus looked at Rex, at the German shepherd who'd never wavered, never doubted, never stopped believing that his partner would come back for him. "I'm thinking private investigation, maybe security consulting. Gus, the guy who helped us get Rex on the plane, he runs a company. Said he could always use someone with my skills." Marcus scratched behind Rex's ears. "And they allow K9 partners, full-time." "That sounds good. Honest work, helping people, and you get to keep Rex." "Yeah, it does sound good." Marcus's phone buzzed. A video call from Agent Torres. He answered, and her face appeared on the screen, tired but triumphant. "I'm looking at 2 fugitives who just created an international incident," Torres said, but she was smiling. "I should be reading you your rights. Instead, I'm calling to say congratulations." "For what?" "For breaking the biggest trafficking case the Bureau has handled in 5 years. Between the victims you rescued in Rotterdam and the evidence De Vries is sharing, we're dismantling networks across 3 continents, 27 arrests in the last 6 hours, 43 victims freed, and that number is going to keep growing." Chen leaned into frame. "What about Brennan?" "Brennan is done. His lawyer is negotiating a plea deal. 25 to life in federal prison in exchange for full cooperation and testimony against Kovich's American operations. Voss is cooperating fully. And the commissioner? He's announced his retirement, effective immediately, amid questions about what he knew and when he knew it." Marcus felt vindication sweep through him. And the charges against us? Being dropped, all of them, in exchange for your testimony at multiple trials over the next year. Torres leaned closer to her camera. You're heroes, Marcus. You and Chen and Rex, you broke the rules, you pissed off a lot of powerful people, and you saved lives. That matters more than protocol. What about my job? Torres's expression softened. Metro PD is offering full reinstatement with back pay. They're calling it a misunderstanding and a breakdown in communication. They want you to come back, accept a promotion, and make this whole thing go away quietly. Marcus looked at Rex, thought about going back to the department that had tried to kill his partner, that had protected a corrupt captain, that cared more about politics than justice. Tell them no, he said. Torres raised an eyebrow. You're turning down reinstatement and promotion? I'm turning down working for people I can't trust. Rex and I are done with Metro PD. What will you do? Find honest work. Help people who need it. Do the job the right way. Marcus smiled. And maybe take a vacation first. I hear Amsterdam is nice this time of year. Torres laughed. You've earned it, both of you. I'll handle the paperwork on this end. You stay in Rotterdam until De Vries clears you to travel, then come home. We'll need you for depositions, but after that, you're free to live your life. Thank you, Rebecca, for everything. Thank me by staying out of trouble for at least 6 months. Think you can manage that? Marcus looked at Rex. No promises. 3 days later, Marcus and Chen stood in Rotterdam's central police station alongside Inspector De Vries and a room full of Dutch and international law enforcement. On screens behind them, news coverage played footage of coordinated raids across Europe. Kovach's empire was collapsing in real time. De Vries addressed the assembled officers in English for the benefit of the international team. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're witnessing is the result of cooperation between Dutch National Police, Interpol, FBI, and law enforcement agencies across 7 countries. Operation Silent Chains has resulted in 63 arrests, 89 victims freed, and the seizure of assets totaling over 40 million euros. Applause filled the room. Marcus stood to the side, uncomfortable with attention, but De Vries gestured him forward. This operation succeeded because one detective refused to accept that powerful people were above the law. Detective Marcus Holland risked his career, his freedom, and his life to pursue justice for victims who had no voice. And he did it with a partner who never wavered. De Vries knelt down, and Rex, professional as always, sat at attention, accepting the inspector's offered hand for a shake. The room erupted in laughter and applause. In recognition of their service, De Vries continued, standing and pulling out a medal, the Dutch National Police awards Detective Holland and K9 Rex the Medal of International Cooperation for actions above and beyond in the pursuit of justice. Marcus accepted the medal, feeling surreal. A week ago, he'd been suspended and facing criminal charges. Now he was being honored by a foreign government for breaking 6 laws. Thank you, he said simply. But this wasn't about medals or recognition. It was about doing what was right. Rex and I, we just followed where the evidence led. The real heroes are the victims who survived, who testified, who refused to let evil win. More applause. Chen stood beside him, accepting her own medal, and Marcus saw pride in her eyes. After the ceremony, as officers mingled and congratulated each other, Elena Petrova appeared in the doorway. She'd flown to Rotterdam with FBI escort to testify about the network's operations, and she looked different than the terrified girl Marcus had pulled from the basement. Stronger, determined. She walked directly to Marcus and Rex, and before Marcus could say anything, she knelt and threw her arms around the German shepherd. "Thank you," she said in accented English. "You came for us. You kept your promise." Rex, gentle as always with children, sat still and let her hug him, tail wagging slowly. Elena looked up at Marcus, tears streaming down her face. "The police say I'm safe now. Say the bad men will go to prison. Say I can go home or stay in America with protection. They say I have choices now. You do, Marcus said gently. Because of you. Because you didn't give up. She stood, wiped her eyes. I want to be police too. When I'm older, I want to help people like you helped me. Marcus felt his throat tighten. You'll be amazing at it. Will you teach me? About investigation, about justice, about how to be brave when everything is scary? Elena, you're already brave. You testified against Kovac. You told your story on television. You survived 8 months of horror and you're still standing. That's more courage than most people show in a lifetime. She smiled through tears. But will you teach me? Marcus looked at this 16-year-old girl who'd endured nightmares and come out fighting, who wanted to transform her trauma into purpose, and he felt something he hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Yeah, he said. I'll teach you, and Rex will teach you too, about loyalty, about never giving up, about trusting your instincts. Elena hugged him, fierce and grateful, and over her shoulder Marcus saw Chen smiling, saw Torres watching from across the room with approval, saw Inspector DeVries nodding with respect. This was why he'd become a cop, not for the badge or the authority or the paycheck, for moments like this, for victims becoming survivors, for justice actually prevailing, for the chance to make the world slightly less dark. 2 weeks later, Marcus and Rex walked into Gus Hernandez's office in a converted warehouse in Brooklyn. The space was clean, professional, with training areas for dogs, equipment storage, and a small administrative section. Gus looked up from paperwork, saw Marcus and Rex, and smiled. The prodigal cop returns. I half expected you to be in prison. It was close, Marcus admitted. I saw the news. International trafficking ring busted, corrupt captain going to prison, dozens of victims freed. You caused quite a stir. Gus came around the desk, shook Marcus's hand firmly. I also heard you turned down reinstatement with Metro PD. Couldn't work for people I don't trust. Good, because I meant what I said about having a position for you. I'm expanding operations. Corporate security, executive protection, private investigation. I need someone with your skills and your integrity, and I need K-9 teams. He looked at Rex, especially teams with his reputation. Word is, Rex found the hidden basement, alerted to the victims, tracked you across Rotterdam in the middle of the night. That's the kind of working dog that's worth his weight in gold. Marcus ran his hand over Rex's head. He's not for sale. I'm not buying. I'm offering partnership. You and Rex join Hernandez Security Solutions as senior investigators. You get equity in the company, full benefits, and complete autonomy on cases. You pick your jobs, work your own hours, and Rex is recognized as a full partner, not department property. It was everything Marcus wanted. Honest work, helping people, keeping Rex, and maintaining the integrity his father had taught him to value above all else. When do we start? Marcus asked. How about now? I've got a client who needs a security assessment, and they specifically requested the cop who broke the trafficking ring. Apparently going viral for doing the right thing is good for business. Marcus smiled. Let's do it. 6 months later, Marcus sat in a federal courtroom in Manhattan, wearing his best suit, Rex in a service vest at his side. The trial of Captain Richard Brennan had been going on for 3 weeks, and today was Marcus's testimony. The prosecutor, a sharp woman in her 50s named Janet Reeves, led him through his account step by step, the operation at the warehouse, Brennan's orders to keep Rex away, the discovery of explosives, the hidden basement, the attempted murder when Brennan tried to burn the facility with victims inside. Brennan sat at the defense table, silver hair perfectly groomed, expensive suit immaculate, but his gray eyes held the flat desperation of a man watching his empire crumble. Detective Holland, Reeves said, in your professional opinion, was Captain Brennan's presence at the trafficking facility that night consistent with conducting a legitimate investigation? No, ma'am. Why not? Because legitimate investigators don't pour gasoline on stairs to kill witnesses. They don't shoot at fellow officers. They don't try to burn children alive to destroy evidence. Brennan's lawyer objected, arguing inflammatory testimony, but the judge overruled. The evidence was overwhelming. Security footage, Elena's testimony, Voss's cooperation, financial records, 11 victims from Rotterdam identifying Brennan from photographs. The trial lasted another week, but the verdict was never in doubt. Guilty on all counts, 35 years in federal prison. Marcus watched Brennan being led away in handcuffs and felt satisfaction, but not joy. There was no happiness in watching a decorated captain revealed as a monster. Only the grim necessity of justice. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Marcus gave a brief statement. Justice had prevailed, the victims were safe. He was proud to have played a role. And then he and Rex walked away from the cameras, from the attention, from the chapter of his life that had defined him for 12 years. Chen was waiting by his car, no longer in police uniform, but in FBI professional attire. She'd taken Torres's offer, was now a federal agent specializing in human trafficking cases. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Tired, relieved, ready to move forward. Torres wanted me to tell you that the last of Kovac's network was dismantled yesterday. Prague operation shut down, 17 more victims freed. It's over, Marcus. You did it." "We did it. You, me, Rex, Torres, DeVries, all of us." Chen smiled. "Yeah, all of us." She crouched down, scratched Rex behind the ears. "Take care of him, you hear? He's earned a peaceful life. So have you." "I'm working on it." She stood. "Stay in touch, Holland. The Bureau could use consultants with your experience and your moral compass." "I'll think about it." Chen walked away, and Marcus looked at Rex. The German shepherd looked back with those intelligent brown eyes, tail wagging slowly, ready for whatever came next. "What do you say, boy? Want to go home?" Rex's tail wagged faster. Home. Not the apartment Marcus had lived in for years, but a new place. A house in Queens, with a yard where Rex could run. A quiet street with neighbors who didn't ask too many questions. A space where Marcus could build a life defined by choices rather than obligations. They drove through the city as evening fell, lights coming on across 8 million stories, 8 million lives, most of them good people trying to do their best in a complicated world. Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from Elena, who was living with a foster family in New Jersey and attending high school while recovering from her trauma. "I got an A on my criminal justice essay. My teacher said I write like someone who understands the system. I told her I learned from the best. Thank you for everything, Detective Holland. You changed my life." Marcus smiled, texted back. "You changed your own life by being brave enough to survive and strong enough to testify. I'm proud of you, Elena. Keep up the good work." Another text, this one from Torres. "Kovac's trial starts next month. You and Rex will need to testify. But after that, you're done. Free and clear. Enjoy your life, Marcus. You earned it." One more, from Inspector DeVries. "The Dutch National Police formally commends you and K9 Rex for exceptional service. If you're ever in Rotterdam, drinks are on me. And bring the dog. He's a legend here." Marcus pulled into his driveway, killed the engine, and sat for a moment in the gathering dark. A week ago, he'd been a suspended cop facing criminal charges. Now he was a private investigator with a growing business, a partnership with a friend, and the freedom to choose his own path. Rex nudged his arm with a cold nose, impatient to get inside, and Marcus laughed. Okay, let's get you fed." They walked to the front door together, man and dog, partners in every sense of the word, and Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. The system was broken, but good people could still make a difference. Evil existed, but it could be fought. Justice was hard, but it was worth pursuing. And sometimes, when you refused to give up, when you trusted your partner, When you did the right thing even when it cost you everything, you discovered that everything you really needed had been beside you all along. Marcus unlocked the door, Rex bounded inside, and for the first time in months, Marcus Holland felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Home. The ceremony took place in Central Park on a clear autumn morning. The Victims' Rights Coalition was honoring individuals who'd made extraordinary contributions to fighting human trafficking, and Marcus had been invited as a guest of honor. He'd tried to decline, uncomfortable with public attention, but Elena had called him personally. "Please come," she'd said. "I'm receiving an award for advocacy, and I want you there. You and Rex. You started this for me. You showed me that one person can make a difference." So Marcus put on a suit, brushed Rex's coat until it shone, and drove to Manhattan. The event was larger than he'd expected. Hundreds of people, including survivors, advocates, law enforcement, and politicians who wanted to be seen supporting a popular cause. Marcus stood in the crowd with Rex at his side, trying to be invisible. Then Elena took the stage. She was 17 now, taller, stronger, with the confidence of someone who'd survived hell and chosen to transform it into purpose. She wore a simple dress, no makeup, and when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of experience. "1 year ago, I was a prisoner," she said. "I was locked in a basement, treated like property, with no hope that anyone would save me. I had given up. I believed I would die there." The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. But a police officer and his dog didn't give up. They risked everything, their careers, their lives, their freedom, to save me and 11 other people they'd never met. They did it because it was right, not because it was easy or legal or would make them heroes, because it was right. Elena's eyes found Marcus in the crowd. "Detective Marcus Holland taught me that one person with courage can change the world, that loyalty and integrity matter more than rules and politics, that sometimes the system fails but people don't have to." She held up a photograph, displayed on the screen behind her. It showed Marcus and Rex in the Rotterdam warehouse, taken by Chen's camera in the moment before the final confrontation. Marcus looked exhausted, determined, his hand on Rex's head, both of them ready to face whatever came next. "This is what a hero looks like," Elena said. "Not a man in a cape or a movie star, a detective who wouldn't let me die, a dog who tracked his partner across a foreign city, 2 souls who refused to accept that evil could win." The crowd erupted in applause. Marcus felt heat rising in his face, felt every eye turning toward him, and wanted nothing more than to disappear. But then Elena gestured for him to join her on stage, and he couldn't refuse. Not her, not after everything. He walked to the stage, Rex at his side, and Elena hugged him fiercely. "Thank you," she whispered, "for giving me my life back." "You gave yourself your life back," Marcus replied. "I just opened the door. You walked through it." The coalition director presented Marcus with an award, the Guardian Medal, recognizing extraordinary courage in defense of trafficking victims. Then she knelt and presented Rex with a medal of his own, a gold disc that hung from his collar. "K9 Rex," she said, "in recognition of your service, your loyalty, and your unwavering dedication to protecting those who cannot protect themselves, we honor you as a true hero." Rex, professional to the end, sat at attention and accepted the medal with the dignity of a working dog who understood he'd done his job well. The ceremony continued, other awards presented, other stories told, but Marcus barely heard them. He stood on that stage with Elena on one side and Rex on the other. 2 lives he'd helped save. 2 souls who'd taken their second chances and turned them into something meaningful. After the ceremony, as the crowd dispersed and Marcus prepared to leave, a young man approached. He was in his 20s, wearing a police academy uniform, and he looked nervous. "Detective Holland? I'm sorry to bother you, but I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Cadet James Brennan." Marcus felt his body tense. Brennan, the captain's family. I'm Richard Brennan's nephew, the young man continued quickly. I know what my uncle did. I know the pain he caused, the lives he destroyed. I wanted you to know that not all of us are like him. Some of us still believe in doing the job the right way, the way you did it. Marcus studied the young man, saw sincerity in his eyes, saw the weight of carrying a tainted name. What's your goal? Marcus asked. To be the kind of cop my uncle should have been. To honor the badge instead of disgracing it. To make sure that what happened never happens again. James looked at Rex. And I wanted to ask if, after I graduate, if you might consider training me. Not officially, just advice, guidance, from someone who knows what real police work looks like. Marcus thought about it, about cycles of corruption being broken, about good people choosing to be better than their family's mistakes, about second chances and redemption. Call me when you graduate, Marcus said, handing over his card. We'll talk. James's face lit up with gratitude. Thank you, sir. I won't let you down. As the young man walked away, Chen appeared at Marcus's side. She'd been promoted to supervisory special agent, running her own team investigating trafficking networks. You're mentoring now? She asked, amused. Someone has to make sure the next generation gets it right. Good, because I'm stealing your idea. Torres and I are starting a training program for law enforcement, how to identify trafficking operations, how to protect victims, how to build cases that stick. We want you involved. Guest lecturer, consultant, whatever works. I'll think about it. Think fast. First session is next month. Chen smiled. You can't hide from this, Marcus. What you did changed how people think about trafficking investigations. You proved that one cop who gives a damn can make a difference. Own it. Maybe she was right. Maybe instead of trying to disappear into private investigation, he could use his experience to train others, to make sure future cops had the tools and the courage to stand up when systems failed. Okay, Marcus said. I'm in. Chen squeezed his shoulder. Good. The world needs more cops like you. She looked at Rex. And more partners like him. As evening fell, Marcus and Rex walked through Central Park, past families and joggers and tourists, all of them living lives that were safer because traffickers had been caught, networks had been dismantled, victims had been freed. They walked past the lake, where the setting sun painted the water gold, and Marcus thought about his father. About the cop who taught him that integrity mattered, that justice was worth fighting for, that sometimes the right thing and the legal thing weren't the same. His father would have been proud, not of the medals or the recognition, but of the choice Marcus had made when it mattered most, to protect his partner, to save the innocent, to refuse to let evil hide behind badges and authority. Marcus looked down at Rex, at the German shepherd who'd never wavered, never doubted, never stopped being the best partner a cop could ask for. We did good, boy, Marcus said quietly. Rex looked up at him, tail wagging, brown eyes full of loyalty and trust and the simple joy of being exactly where he belonged. Together they walked home through the gathering darkness, two heroes who'd never wanted the title but had earned it anyway, ready for whatever tomorrow brought, knowing that as long as they had each other, they could face anything. Because that's what partners did. Thank you for watching this story. Subscribe to the channel, write in the comments which city you're watching from, and share this video with someone who loves dogs and believes in justice.